Call from 9 till 12.
It's 9 till noon show. But we used to do another show between 10 and 1. It was called the
10 to 1 show. Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll give you an A for originality.
Yeah, well,
we will give you that.
God loves a trier.
Absolutely.
All right, see you Saturday.
We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks very much, Rory. It is, in fact, 9 o'clock. Time for news update. Good morning, Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. The new defective blocks bill passed through the Dáil last night as dozens of amendments were voted down by government. Karen Corla, Sean O'Friel confirmed the decision just before 8 o'clock.
Tá 74, Neil 69, there were no abstentions, and the bill is carried and will now be sent to the Shannon.
Well, this means present foundations will not be included in the scheme. IS 465 will remain as the standard, and there is no facility to increase the cost cap outside of the minister choosing to do so once a year. The government was roundly attacked by the opposition. The Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien continued to insist that the scheme is greatly enhanced and does offer 100% redress. That was rejected by Deputy Thomas Pringle.
I just want to respond a bit to what the Minister said there. And the Minister is adamant that this is a well-improved scheme and everybody should accept it and that they're on that basis. I don't think anybody's argued here that this isn't an improved scheme on the previous scheme, but the problem is that it's not improved enough. And the problem is that families are going to have to wait and go through for the third iteration of this to come around to actually get redress and to be able to rebuild their homes. And that's what's wrong with this scheme.
Well, Donegal Deputy Joe McHugh resigned the Fine Gael whip last night and voted against the government in the debate. He told the Dáil he had to follow his gut because he does not believe the scheme meets the needs of the people.
This is not over. It's not over for the people, and we still have to figure out a way of trying to make it better for people. And I'm talking in particular about the people who are my generation and a bit older. People who are going to find it hard to get a 30 or 40,000 loan up front, even to get engineering fees at second stage, to get demolition. Where does that money come from? There's a lot of shortcomings. There's a lot of work still needed to be done on this. My gut is telling me that this second scheme is falling short for too many people, and in particular for constituents in my own county.
In the UK, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson continues to hold on to power. The Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis, the latest minister to leave the cabinet this morning, the number of resignations from government has now topped over 40. Former Conservative government advisor Laura Evatt says Boris Johnson continues to try to hold on, but she believes his time is now limited.
A, it seems like he'll hang on to the bitter end. B, it seems like there will be more resignations today. And where that puts us is in some really very dangerous territory, because the work of government can't go on. There are bill committees being cancelled today because there are no ministers to appear before them. And where it gets really dangerous is Liz Truss is heavily involved in the NATO accession talks. The Transport Secretary has an imminent rail strike.
Well, the forecast, it'll be quite cloudy today with most areas staying dry, but some patchy drizzle at times. Top temperatures 16 to 20 degrees Celsius, warmest toward the southeast. Northwesterly breezes light to moderate in strength. Tonight it'll be largely cloudy, some patchy light rain. Lowest overnight temperatures 12 to 14. Again, light west to northwest breezes. And that's Highland Radio News. You can, by the way, watch last night's proceedings from all details on our website, highlandradio.com.
Attention all staff. Clean up on aisle 4, please. That's a clean up on aisle 4. And Jacob, who's popped in for a pint of milk, has diabetes.
We don't always know who's at risk from COVID-19 and other viruses, but we do know how to protect them. Keep hands clean and wear a mask. Let fresh air in. Get vaccinated and stay at home if you are unwell. From the HSE, for us all.
It's time for the talk of the Northwest, the 9 to noon show with Greg Hughes on Highland Radio.
Hello, a very good morning. You're very welcome along to the 9 till noon show here on Highland Radio. It's just about to turn 4 minutes past 9 on this Thursday, the 7th of July. Much of the first half of this programme is going to be reacting to that vote in the Dáil last night. And the reason for that being, and I'm sure most of you are aware, is it was perhaps one of the most significant votes, I think, and we keep saying that politically in this county. We've invited all the main players. We, of course, had Independent Deputy Thomas Pringle on the show yesterday, and we have his views on record, and you heard from him on the news there. Joe McHugh, Deputy Joe McHugh, will be joining us to outline his rationale for the decision he made and what's next. We will also be speaking to... who else have we got on? Padraig McLaughlin will be joining us to discuss it from his party's perspective. Michael Doherty will be joining us to tell us what's next, what is next from a Mica Action Group perspective. And we've extended an invite to Minister Charlie McConalogue, who voted with the government last evening and had to a couple of times to find out what he believes, or to explain his rationale for his decision. So we've invited some of the main players on what is no doubt one of the biggest political stories, but particularly from my perspective anyway, the way I view it, human stories in this county's history. All right, let's run through the papers this morning. The Tyrconnell Tribune: councillors back Mica campaign despite pressure in Fianna Fáil. The decision by Donegal's Mica Action Group to establish a political party will cause much soul searching among the local grassroots, where Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael face a battle to retain their Dáil seats. That was long before the new party was formed. John McAteer writes, Mica campaigners ramped it up over the weekend, with Donegal's 37 county councillors giving an ultimatum: show your support for the affected homeowners and put the people before the party. Eventually, all 37 voted to support the campaign. It's reported that pressure to back the party was strongest in Fianna Fáil, but the advice put forward was flatly rejected, according to political sources. And you can read much more on that and the rest of the news on the front of it inside the Tyrconnell Tribune. The Derry People Donegal News tells us that a man killed in a car crash outside Letterkenny on Tuesday night has been named as Mervyn McClure. Mr McClure, who was in his 70s, died when 3 cars collided on the main N13 Newtown Cunningham to Letterkenny Road at 10:50 p.m. A man in his 40s was also hospitalised in the fatal collision. His injuries are not believed to be life-threatening. The N13 remained closed for much of yesterday as forensic investigators tried to piece together what happened. It has, of course, since reopened. On to the Donegal Democrat now. Their top story today: Freedom of London, Mayor honour for Fros's man. A Fros's native has been awarded the prestigious Freedom of the City of London at a special ceremony at the city's Guildhall on Monday. Tim Kelly, who is the chair of the Wembley-based Kelly Group, was presented with the Freedom of the City of London by Tifan Lebian, Deputy Clerk to the Chamberlain's Court, in recognition of his success as a businessman and his charitable works. The Derry News is top story today: Life for a Life. The family of Derry murder victim Edward Meenan have hit out at the length of jail sentences handed down to his killers. They were speaking after 3 men were jailed this week for the killing of the father of 9, whose badly beaten body was discovered in a laneway at the rear of Cregan Street in the city in the early hours of November 25th, 2018. On to the broadsheets now, and their focus on yesterday's, and this is probably what part of the problem is their focus on yesterday's ongoings in the Dáil is really, firstly, that the government loses its majority, which it doesn't really. It's got a quite a healthy working majority, and a couple of members who had a whip withdrawn from them will be back in the fold very quickly. And also the fact that Joe McHugh voted against this Mica legislation. That's the approach they're taking. It's not on the front page, but anyway, this is the problem I think campaigners have faced. Fine Gael TD Joe McHugh has voted against government legislation underpinning the $2.7 billion Mica redress scheme, weakening the coalition's position in the Dáil. The Donegal TD and former Minister for Education opposed the remediation of dwellings damaged by the use of defective concrete blocks Bill 2022. Mr McHugh then resigned as the Fine Gael party whip, which means the government loses its majority of 80, reduced to just 79 of the 159 TDs. The bill was passed by 74 votes to 69. It'll now go on to the Seanad. The legislation seeks to establish a scheme to provide grants to homeowners in Donegal, Mayo and other counties to repair defects caused by Mica, which has led building blocks to crumble. However, campaigners have said the legislation is flawed, excludes numerous properties, and that many affected people would still have to put thousands of euro towards rebuilding their homes. On to the Irish Independent now. Their front page, and not surprising really, is the fact that Leo Varadkar will not face any charges. The DPP has found that he was engaged in no wrongdoing. Leo Varadkar is on course to return to the office of the Taoiseach in 5 months' time after a Garda investigation into his leaking of confidential GP contracts cleared him of any wrongdoing. The emboldened Tánaiste is now free to reshuffle his cabinet in December without the fear of the long-running investigation hanging over his head as he appoints ministers. The outcome of the leaks probe also means Mr Varadkar will not have to worry about his coalition colleagues voting against him becoming Taoiseach when a Dáil vote is called in December. In a statement last night, the Fine Gael leader insisted he always maintained the allegations made against him were false. On to the Irish Daily Mail now, and a breakaway group of Fianna Fáil backbenchers met in secret yesterday, hours before a wounded government lost its Dáil majority. In a turbulent day at Leinster House, Fine Gael TD for Donegal Joe McHugh voted against the government over the redress scheme for homeowners impacted by defective Mica blocks. The loss of the majority poses no immediate threat, with several independent TDs to rely on to ensure they can continue to pass legislation. And this is, I'm not sure what this means really, or how good this is for, independent politics either. Obviously, we have independents that voted against the government, but when you have independents that gather as a group and votes with the government, and perhaps do so with a little bit of persuasion, shall we say, it does make you wonder what a vote for certain independents actually means. You might as well vote with the government, or whichever parties are likely to form that government, aren't they? But they do have a wish list, and sometimes little things are ticked off that wish list for pairing arrangements, for example, or for votes like this. Separately, Gardaí announced Tánaiste and Fine Gael leader Leo Varadkar will not be prosecuted by the DPP there. I didn't hear, or I'm not aware, was Mark McSharry in the Dáil yesterday? How did he vote? I heard his name being called. I didn't hear a yay or nay, so to speak, but I'm not 100% sure if he did vote or not, or why he wasn't there. Of course, he's one of those that said that he would leave the party and vote against the government if campaigners weren't happy with the review of this scheme. But I don't know if he did vote or not. I suspect he wasn't there, but I don't want to say he wasn't there because I don't want to misrepresent him either. I'm sure somebody out there might know why, and perhaps maybe we might make inquiries as if he was or not, and why he wasn't, and what way might he have voted. The Irish Farmers Journal this morning, Minister for Agriculture Charlie McConnell and Minister for the Environment Eamon Ryan squared up on agriculture's carbon emissions targets this week. Direct negotiations took place between the two ministers, with Minister Ryan pushing for a deal to be done before the Dáil summer recess on the 14th of July. It's understood that he was met with stiff resistance on an upper target from Minister McConnell and his officials. I just want to mention actually as well the front page of the Finn Valley Voice this week, just to jump back to the locals for a second. Have it here with me. Their lead story is sad farewell to Michael O'Boyle. They called him the Bear for his impressive physique. Spanning 5 decades, the old Finn Valley College days to the present century, Michael O'Boyle was the heart and soul of St. Columba's College. And you can read the tribute to him on the front of and inside that paper today. Boris Johnson, remarkably, unless something's changed in the last 5 minutes, remains in power. This is a guy who cannot actually really function, or his government can't function, because there aren't the people currently left to make it function. So many have resigned. Even his most ardent supporters have turned their back on him. But he is remarkably refusing to back down. But I mean, his days are numbered. It's just whether or not he goes himself or the 1922 committee find a way to get him out. But Boris Johnson dramatically sacked cabinet rival Michael Gove last night and rejected calls to quit as support for his leadership collapsed at Westminster. The Prime Minister met ministers in Number 10 yesterday evening, where he was told he had lost the confidence of the Tory party and could not continue in office. Former ally Gove, was he an ally? Well, I think he wouldn't be really classed as a true ally. But anyway, he was thought to have told the Prime Minister yesterday morning that it was time for him to quit. And I presume Boris Johnson believes that the people gave him the mandate, not his party. And it's Trump-esque almost in some elements of the way he's going on. The Sun today, rescue chiefs have issued an alert to parents after dealing with several instances of babies trapped in cars. Officials warned that leaving kids in vehicles, even if only popping into the shop, puts them at risk of heat stroke or dehydration. Victor Shine of Cork City Fire Brigade said it could leave stricken children needing medical treatment. He added, when an infant or small child starts crying in a car after being left alone, things tend to get very dramatic very quickly. Oftentimes, we will have to do a forced entry using specialised equipment to break the windows of the car. Officer Shine urged anyone who sees a child trapped in a car to call the emergency services rather than trying to intervene themselves. He says that the windows will often be closed. The bystander is sometimes frustrated knowing that what trouble they could get into if they try to gain access to the vehicle to help the children themselves. Now, I've never seen a situation like that. I'm not sure how widespread it is, but I suppose as soon as there is the potential for some warmer weather, we do often hear those types of warnings. Finally, for now, in the Irish Daily Mirror, the 4th of July massacre suspect has admitted to police he carried out the shooting. The details emerged as Robert Cremo appeared in court for the first time yesterday over Monday's attack, in which 7 people were killed at an Independence Day parade in the US. Assistant State's Attorney Ben Dillon told a judge that the 21-year-old rapper, as he's described here, had made a voluntary statement confessing to his actions. After he was denied bail, officials revealed Cremo had intended to carry out another mass shooting shortly after his first, as he had bullets left over. And the family in that community, that's just with them for absolutely forever now. 7 people killed, over 40 shot and injured or injured in a scramble. It's just absolutely a horrific story. And it was one of 2 mass shootings in America on that particular day. Right, okay, our first guest join us in a second.
The newspapers are courtesy of Kelly Centra, Mountaintop, Letterkenny.
New this week in Home Store and More. All living room cushions are half price. That's right, half price. But better hurry, because when all the half-price living room cushions are gone, they're gone. Also, all camping is still half price. But when all the half-price camping is gone, it's definitely gone. Order online before 2 p.m. for next day delivery, or drop by your local Home Store and More. Home Store and More. A happy home.
Enjoy great family entertainment at the Ulster Fla. A week of singing and street sessions, concerts, colourful parade and much more. 17th to the 24th of July in the heart of Ulster in Dromore. Find Ulster Fla on Facebook. Supported by Fermanagh and Omagh DC, Arts Council NI, Cultus and the Department of Tourism, Culture, Arts, Gaeltacht, Sport and Media.
The Birth Information and Tracing Act is now here. People adopted, boarded out or the subject of an illegal birth registration can access their birth information where available from October. A contact preference register has been established to enable these people and those connected to them to register their preference in relation to future contact with relatives. This is an important issue for many, and an information booklet has been delivered to homes across Ireland. Visit birthinfo.ie to find out more.
At Creaseless Supermarket, we are renowned for offering quality and value for all your convenience needs. We have expanded and are now offering a full on-post service. Pay a bill, send a package or lodge into a bank account. Our on-post service is available Monday to Saturday. Creaseless Supermarket. We're here for you.
Hi there, this is Danny McElhinney, singer with the band Thulis, Irish Mail and Sunday music columnist and proud Lifford man. I'm delighted to say that I will be on the Jimmy Stafford Show in Highland Radio this Thursday night. I'll be picking my favourite Irish songs of all time and chatting to Jimmy as well. Keep listening to Highland Radio, folks.
That's Centre Stage with Jimmy Stafford and guest Danny McElhinney this Thursday from 8 p.m.
Okay, just a bit of breaking news from Britain. Boris Johnson has said he will resign as the Conservative leader today. He will continue on as Prime Minister, though, until the autumn. A Conservative leadership race will take place this summer and a new Prime Minister will be in place in time for the Tory party conference. So he has been unable to resist the pressure no more. Okay, let's return to more important issues for us closer to home, and that was the decision taken yesterday in the Dáil that, 2 hours was given to discuss 80 amendments. I'm not sure how much of that work was gotten through, but in the end, the bill was passed. Voting against the government was Deputy Joe McHugh, who joins us now. Joe, thanks for taking the time out this morning. I appreciate it.
No problem, and thanks for inviting me on, Greg.
Right, okay. I presume you had a conversation with the party leader, Leo Varadkar, in advance of your vote yesterday.
Yeah, I did a number of conversations with Leo throughout yesterday and the night before. I also had a couple of conversations with Darragh O'Brien yesterday. So I suppose just to give the backdrop as to why I didn't vote on the issue of the order of business on Tuesday. I didn't want to vote against the government on Tuesday because I still believed that I could get a few last minute changes through, but obviously that failed. And when I wasn't able to get the issues that I wanted resolved, be it the issue of downsizing and the issue of foundation and a number of other issues, I just felt I not that I had no choice. You always have a choice as a person, as an individual, but I felt the right choice was to vote against the scheme because I do believe that people will be excluded, and I just felt the same. Felt the same feeling as I felt in the aftermath of the first scheme, that there were changes made in the last 6 weeks that have made the scheme too complicated.
Right, you obviously looked these people in the eye, or maybe spoke to them on the phone. I don't know which. You're on the ground, you know the facts, you're their representative down there, you know people affected by this, so they know they can trust your view. How could they ignore what you had to say to them? And in doing so, how did they ignore it? What excuses, or what possible excuse could they have given for not trusting you on your word?
I think the biggest reason for not being able to make the change was the limited time. Even if there were government decisions made next week in the Seanad during second stage to bring forward amendments, if those amendments were accepted by the Seanad, they would have to come back into the Dáil the following week, and the Dáil wouldn't be sitting that week. So look, while I was one that advocated for
just out of interest in relation to that, because there's two ways to look at that, right? And you can see in the ICCL has done a lot of work on this. The government has a habit of jamming through legislation just before the summer reset. There's precedent here. Was it a case of trying to rush through this flawed scheme to suit themselves for the break for the summer recess, as might be done previously? Or do you think their actual intention was, no, we need to get this done to get families back into rebuilt homes? What do you think their motivation for ramming this through before the recess was, honestly?
I think from speaking to Darragh O'Brien personally, and look, he echoed it publicly as well, he wants the scheme started. He wants to get houses built. He wants to get people to move on with their lives. Like, there's no question about the bona fides, but it goes back again to the detail, and the detail is going to exclude people, and that's the issue. That's the issue I had. And what I did do over the last week was reach out to a lot of people that have been in touch with me over the years, and it was more of a sense of lack of hope, to want of a better expression. There was everybody I spoke to, I didn't feel that they were getting that hope or sense of green light on the scheme, because I felt that they wouldn't be able to access it. So that was the issue. And I think the foundation issue created a very, very negative narrative, because even people who are not associated with Mica, people couldn't understand the fundamentals of not ensuring that you check your founds before you build a house.
Was part of your discussion with Leo Varadkar the optics of this? In other words, what you would do on this vote, how you would vote with the government in the future, and the manner in which you would no longer have the Fine Gael whip. Was that agreed in advance, that you would be allowed to resign the as whip, but at the same time you gave him a commitment that you would continue to support the government in any other votes?
No, because it was the last minute. It was very close to the actual legislation, because I was, out of courtesy, out of trying to be fair by the people who tried to put the scheme together, to give them the time. So the conversation we had was very limited. At the end of the conversation, I just said to Leo I'd be resigning the whip and voting against this legislation. And obviously I'm in a new place now since 1999. I've always I signed up the party pledge. I think it was in the Old Milford Hotel in 1999. I don't have that whip anymore. It's a new departure. I'm going to have to make choices as an individual now in relation to votes. But you haven't given any assurances that you will support the government going forward, or have you stated that you will be voting now on a case by case basis? Which is it? Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'll be looking at vote, but my motivation yesterday was on the vote on the Mica legislation, and obviously I had an issue with it. I had a moral dilemma with it, and I wanted to do the right thing on behalf of my constituents. I mean, overnight, I don't become an opposition advocate. I think you know already my faith. Like I haven't been critical of the opposition for all these years to all of a sudden overnight to be voting with the opposition. So like what I'll have to do now is come every vote is I'm going to have to look at them. I'm going to have to look at them as to how they benefit my own constituents and my own constituency.
Yeah, but can I say to you respectfully that in terms of how this is working out, you have taken a stand, but you're still a member of Fine Gael, and you know, as you say, your allegiance is still with them, and that's fine, and people might respect that. But some might say, you know, if you were serious about this, that you'd quit the party altogether. That you know, if you'd have made that statement, it would have carried far more weight, perhaps within your party, and certainly on a national scale. I mean, I'm not sure if you voted later in the Dáil last evening and which way you voted, but you know, you could have gone further than you had in standing with the people, some might feel.
Well, if you listened to my contribution in the Dáil last night when I said to Dara O'Brien that this issue isn't finished, the Mica issue, it's very much live, and I know the campaigners are going to keep campaigning. So it's up to me now to use my position in the best way possible. I mean, I've suffered the consequences of losing the party whip on this vote, to make a statement to the government that while for the remainder of the time that I'm going to be in politics, and I've no skin in the game, Greg, I'm not running the next time. There's no electoral advantage, no electoral gain. My motivation now is to use my time in the Dáil to advocate on behalf of the homeowners on a scheme which is effectively replicating the first scheme in terms of the detail. I mean, when I voted and agreed to the first scheme, I believed in the bona fides that it was going to be a 90-10 scheme. And I think even if you speak to the campaigners 6 weeks ago, this scheme was looking good, was in a good place. But whatever happened in the intervening time, that's where the problem lay. And I'm going to use my voice to be strong on this issue.
Right. Stay with me for a moment, if you don't mind. Deputy Padraig McLaughlin, obviously you, as Joe McHugh did, spoke out against this. I mean, for the reasons for you are obvious, of course, I imagine.
I welcome what Joe did last night. I think it was an important stand in solidarity with the homeowners. I think it vindicates the position of people like Michael Doherty, and we would have looked up at Michael in the public gallery last night. I found it heartbreaking, really heartbreaking to see somebody who gave his heart and soul, put so much into negotiations, absolutely honourable all the way. And to see his face last night was heartbreaking. I'll never forget it. But my determination, absolute determination, is to make the scheme right, to get it right. Last night was a setback, but we just can't let down the people of Donegal.
I'm just not sure how many more setbacks the people affected by this can take, you know, because a lot of emotion and energy would have been for a lot of people holding themselves together with the view that this would be enough. And you, I'm sure Deputy Joe McHugh and Michael Doherty, who will join us in a moment, have all received the same type of messages I have. People that literally have nothing left to give, to keep going, to wait for this to be gotten right at some point.
Last night was a horrible night. And to look at the traumatised homeowners up in the gallery when they made that protest, we went out and spoke to some of them who were there again outside the gates last night. And then, of course, I was in communication with people right through last night and this morning. And our job now, all of us, Greg, in whatever form of life, whether in political life or public life, or whatever we do in Donegal, is to get behind the homeowners, to give them strength. And we have to fight on, because if we just recap the big things in this scheme, imagine you don't allow them a pathway towards 100% because the rates are just too low, so they don't get 100%. And then when they offer to downsize their houses, you don't allow them to do that. You have that issue. Then you have the issue of you're not testing the foundations. You're not actually making sure that the blocks and foundations are being tested for the full range of these deleterious materials, including, as you know, pyrrhotite, which is now becoming the main offender based on lab tests that have been carried out again and again. So the science you can't trust, you don't have the right money, you can't downsize. These are the fundamental issues. And I just can't, I genuinely am shocked that they didn't agree to those changes. I know it was understood a number of weeks ago that they were going to do that, and we'd have a scheme that was at least workable, give people a pathway to 100%, even if it wasn't perfect. So it was a horrible night last night. But my job, Greg, and your job too, as a leader in the county, is to try and give people strength and fight on. That's what we have to do.
Michael Doherty, I appreciate, like all of our guests, everyone's time is short here, but I know yours as well. I mean, you can react as well to last evening, but I think what a lot of people know is what next. You know, what happens next now.
Well, I think first of all we can't just move off without acknowledging. Like I come home early hours of the morning, there was no sleep really, so I got up and I wrote a few words down, which I've never done before. But the way I saw it was how Anna was there, and we all felt it. And I wrote it. We sat in the gallery, filled with anger and tears, watching every affected homeowner get sentenced and fined tens of thousands of euros the rest of their lives, but no one could tell us what we'd done wrong.
Yeah, I think that sums it up.
There's no answer to that. And that's it. And where do we go next? We need to regroup. We need to regather our thoughts and efforts on this and see where we point this to. What we do know is simple things like the process was a real eye-opener for us. You know, what we basically ended up with was they produced an unfit bill in the first place that was way, way, way off the mark, to the point that it needed 80 amendments. They gave us 3 days to scrutinise it and have the amendments tabled and submitted, all 80 of them. That's how far off the mark this bill was. They were then given 2 hours to present them and get the votes done on them, which was never, ever going to work. They rule out of order what they don't want talked about. For example, the down-free sizing, even though it doesn't cost the state an extra penny, and that should have been the grounds for ruling out of order. It was the minister was asked on 3 or 4 occasions by Michael McNamara and others why, never was answered. And then we see they'll line up a few independents then to make sure that they won the votes in the end, and then ram it through. That's the process. That's how laws are built and made in this wee country of ours. And I have to say I was probably quite naive to an extent, coming in as what I would count an honest broker to our process. And it was beyond belief.
Yeah, I think it's
no
also
easier today. It's no easier today than it was last night.
No, and I think too, for the political process, we'd need to have an understanding too of what was in it for, you know, independents to vote with the government.
Yeah, these are people with no skin in the game, right? Other than they'll get a wee job done down in their own counties. That's how this stuff works. They get a wee job done in their own county. It's blood money as far as I'm concerned. The other part being completely ignored here is that defective concrete blocks are still being manufactured today. That's on record. That's on record from Engineers Ireland by Aidan O'Connell. Still happening today, and there's nobody paying any attention to that or addressing that. It's not even being talked about. We've got National Standards Authority of Ireland, and the people that are going to be reviewing that are the people that are big businesses in this country. The Concrete Federation of Ireland. There's several quarries mentioned on there. This is Turkey's voting for Christmas stuff Paddy McGrath talked about in the diet. We have one of the said companies that's responsible down the west coast, forecasted profit of €5.25 billion for this year. And they haven't been asked for one red cent by government. Why would they do that? Yet they'll peddle the narrative, taxpayers are usually happy to cough up this money. This is a completely loaded dice, and there's no place for honest people in this process.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a case of just drawing breath now and, you know, recharging batteries and sticking together and moving forward, Michael. But I just know, and you know, and I can see it and I can hear it in your voice. this is just it's a devastating warning for so many people. I just really fear what impact this could have. I don't know what we can do in terms of programming or whatever it is to try and support people to get, because the spirits are just going to be as low as they can, and not just in mood. I want about how the very negative impact it can have on someone's mental and physical health. And I don't know what the summer, the next few months and into the winter is going to hold, but we have to find something to do to support people, if that makes sense.
That was absolutely appropriate. And every amendment that got ruled out last night or got turned down, I could see somebody's face against that. We'll take about 20 calls a week. People with different scenarios. The amendments that we tabled were to cover these people with different scenarios. And we didn't even get talking to the vast majority of them, just because of how the system was loaded. It was loaded that we had to rule stuff out in order to get the more important stuff. But we were very aware every time we moved into something that was more important, we were leaving people behind, phone calls and faces that had issues that could have been addressed in this bill, but weren't addressed in this bill. And this statement about it's a much better bill than before, compared to what? Compared to an absolutely useless bill that was never, ever going to work. So we had over 100,000 as an average. Now we're down to probably 50 or 60. But if you go to a bank and you haven't got a means of borrowing, it doesn't matter if it's 50, 60 or 100,000. You just don't have the means to do it. So this was an opportunity to get it right this time. All the creativity came from the homeowners. The solutions came from the homeowners. I will be publishing minutes very, very shortly, because I've nothing to lose at this stage, of the meetings that took place between John O'Connor, Kevin Dillon, and myself, and Martina Hegarty, and Michael Carr. And that tabled the progress that was being made. So much of this was so nearly over the line, and it could have been a good scheme. And I said I would personally go to Dublin. I would stand shoulder to shoulder with the minister and endorse the scheme. But we needed these certain things over the lines. Joe knows what they are. Padraig knows what they are. We tabled them as a TD prompt sheet. You're all aware of it. There was nothing in there that wasn't doable. And the things that were seen as a bit too much at this stage, we said at least get that tabled in for the revision in 3 years' time. There was a pathway for everybody in what we had proposed, where progress was being made. And then at the 11th hour, we saw all that withdrawn, and we got the same bill that we basically had, other than the sliding scale of November last year. Completely let down, and a complete waste of 6 months of our lives that we'll never get back, that we indulged in good faith.
And also, I just
was never meant to work.
And I just also noticed too, and it was inevitable, that you're going to have people critical of what happened here, and maybe even critical of those who were involved in this process. But this is a process that had to be engaged with to this very end to find out if it could be used with all the negotiations, with all the efforts, with all the backing, if the system was such that democratically it could be influenced on a decision like this. And it had to be gone through right to this very, very point. Pulling out of it 4 months ago, pulling out of it a year ago, pulling out of it, it would have achieved absolutely nothing except the blame being lumped on homeowners and them all in the same position. So we, I suppose we've been covering it as well, everyone. This process had to be gotten through to this stage to expose precisely how things maybe can't be achieved when you try and do it right, and you try and do it with a peaceful protest, and you try and do it with lobbying and persuasion and strong arguments.
I think that is 100% right. And that's my only response, really, in terms of you still were brought up with a sense of right and wrong, a sense of justice and injustice. We had to take people through the process. The people that we were engaging with, we engaged with in good faith. And we didn't do it completely naively. We did it with a very, very strong view of what was needed based on an already failed scheme. It was actually not that difficult for us to come up with the creative solutions. We were quite surprised that, departments couldn't have brought them together themselves. But nevertheless, we got past that. We worked with them. We had to get to the difficult night that we had last night to say that we left no stone unturned as a campaign to try and get the right thing done the right way. We had to do that.
But in a way,
we have done it.
And it is no comfort.
We were led down.
Yeah, in a way, and I presume it's no comfort, but of all of your efforts have been successful. They haven't been successful in getting the outcome that was wanted, but you couldn't have done anything else. I don't believe he could have done anything else. So in terms of what can be achieved with an incredibly well-organised campaign, with incredible contacts, with amazing PR, all the stuff that is required, it was a success. But it couldn't succeed in the system. Does that make sense? If you can draw any comfort from that.
Yeah, I think so. But remember, we're still strong.
Oh, 100%.
We'll lick our wounds for probably 24 hours here.
Yeah,
and we'll get back on the wagon. Okay. We'll get back on the wagon. And what we have to acknowledge is that it is a better scheme. There's no doubt about that. I've never argued that it's not. It is a better scheme. But there's an opportunity here to put the misery behind us, that we're not campaigning endlessly year on year, taking up people's lives. Okay. But we will table what we've got, and we will table what's yet to be got. And that's the work ahead of us. That will still be on the plan.
All right. There's other questions for another day, but I know, like all of our guests, you're busy this morning. So thank you for your time. And I want to come back to you, Padraig, because I haven't heard a lot from you, but I just want to put one question to Joe McHugh. Because, Joe, of course, you are a lot of these people that voted this way. They're your friends, they're family people, but they're party people too, of course. Why the human element of this? Why was this not enough? You saw it in Michael's face there. You heard it in his voice. How could people vote against what would have made this conversation so different today? That people would have had hope. People would have had something to listen to. Lives would not be lost. Relationships would not be lost. Children would not be going into the teenage and adult years scarred by a crisis like this. Like, how can people vote the way they did, knowing the human impact this has on people?
I think a big part is the understanding. Number one, you have to live it. For example, late last night I got an email from a mother of 4 children whose husband's self-employed, wanted to go to Dublin to the protest but couldn't give up a day's pay. She was having a tough day yesterday. She was watching the whole proceedings live. Their mobile caravan or mobile home arrived on site yesterday as this was happening. And she still believes that she can't access this scheme under the current conditions. So that's at one level, that understanding, and I suppose for the likes of the Padraig and myself and politicians and councillors in Donegal, we have that understanding because we can see it firsthand. But there's a second thing as well. A lot of the top line things are the messages, and cap of 420, throw out the billions, the total 3.4 billion or whatever they're going to come up with eventually. Be a lot more at the very end. So these are all the top line that politicians that are not living or understanding this, but it's the detail. The devil is always in the detail.
See, the issue I have, I have to be really, really careful with my comments here because I don't want people to misconstrue them. But what is happening in Ukraine at the moment is absolutely devastating. What the Russians are doing is completely unacceptable. But Micheál Martin yesterday, while this vote was taken, there's pictures of him in the papers today, walking amongst the rubble over there. And rightly so, the leader of a country should be over there. And of course, it's reported about how emotional the experience was for him. And the only reason I brought that up is because you talked about what the politicians don't get. They might not get the emotion from it. But we could have Micheál Martin walk through the rubble of homes in Donegal as well. And we could talk to him about the devastating impact this is having actually on people's lives, people that aren't with us because they couldn't take any more. And we could lay a teddy bear for the awful impact this is happening on children's lives here. And I hope politicians would come up and cry the same up here as well, because for the people up here, it's relative. It's devastating. Their houses are destroyed and their families are destroyed. And to some extent, parts of their children are lost as well. And this is, as I say, not in any way to take away from the horror of Ukraine. But as he walked through that rubble yesterday, I was thinking there's a lot of rubble in North Inishowen as well. And just the way he chose his words over there. You talk about how maybe they don't get the emotional element of it. They can seem to get the emotional element of it. I'm not asking you to defend Micheál Martin or whatever, but they seem to get able to get the emotional element of it when the time's right.
Look, I mean, it all comes back to the real life scenario of lives on hold. And as somebody said to me last week, lives stuck. My first photograph this morning was a photograph of a back door, a man leaving his house to go to work. He spends a lot of time in a lorry driving through Europe. He's missed out on a lot of his family time, and basically he's got to start again. He's at the end of his road in terms of his own mortgage. He's at this particular stage of his life, so it's the starting again is the hard bit. So what we have to do now, and even listening to Michael there, and you could hear the emotion in his voice, but we still have to give people hope that we can make this scheme better. And it's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, Greg. There's no point calling for something that is not achievable. But at the same time, I'm going to use my position in terms of all the relationships I built up with officials. And there are good officials in the different departments that wanted a better scheme, but there are constraints as well. And something happened in this scheme, and it made it too restrictive.
Okay, Deputy Joe McHugh, thanks for your time this morning. Padraig McLaughlin, you know, and the reason it's for a reason I've kind of held back in speaking to you, in that I think a lot of people listening to this today affected will not feel that this current government or who advises it or who makes the decisions is actually going to come through on this. So I suspect their next target to get to of hope of something would be your party getting into government next time round and actually following through in full and in a timely manner to its commitments. That's what I think a lot of people's hopes might be, because I think any hope they have of this current government, for right or wrong, I'm not making a judgment call on that, is gone. So there's I think there's got a lot of weight and expectation being looking forward to what might happen under the stewardship of the next government.
Your point about Ukraine is actually a powerful one, Greg, and it occurred to me on many occasions, and it's been said to me, that the government were complaining about having to spend billions to help their own people in utter distress, whose lives had collapsed, buildings collapsing around them in Donegal and the Western. They were complaining, and the same government were almost boasting to the world about spending billions, and rightly, to help out. That's our place in the world. We help out refugees. Every country does that around the world. But they were complaining, doing the same for their own people. And I think that stayed in a lot of minds and hearts. And it goes to the core of what's wrong with the approach of this government, that their own people are in distress and they don't have the same urgency and passion for them.
There was a report, and we have to always check ourselves as best we can, but the government have a report which shows that anti-refugee sentiment is going to grow in this country. And the reason is that people, and I was chatting to one yesterday who's very much involved in the local community, they've welcomed in families and support them and do, but then there are those whose houses have been condemned and they don't have anywhere to go now because these houses have been given over to refugees. It would be, you could not, I don't know if anyone has the capacity to say, well, that's okay then. Do you know what I'm on about? So, but it's not that people have an issue. It's that they've been shoehorned into having to make a decision whose children are more important, my children or refugees' children. Do you get me? So that's why I want to be really careful with my comments here, because it's not an anti-refugee sentiment. I don't want to stoke it, and I want to do anything I can to avoid it. But this is the way people are being shoehorned into thinking. They're being forced to. Talk to me about your commitment, your party's commitment, because whatever about anything being able to take it up until now, I think if your party ends up in government and doesn't follow through it's committed to, this would be multiplied exponentially.
Yeah, no, I mean, Owen O'Brien has been on your show a number of times in the last number of weeks, and he's made it very, very clear where we stand, and what we want is 100% redress, but we need all of the buildings eventually dealt with. It starts, of course, with the primary homeowner, those who have a roof over their head tonight, whether you're in your own home or you're renting. That's your top priority, to get that sorted first. But it must move through all the buildings. Anybody who has found themselves where they have to rebuild or repair their homes because of the utter failure of regulation. Michael talked about the National Standards Authority of Ireland right now are reviewing IS 465, which is a standard in which we're rebuilding the homes in Donegal and the west of Ireland. On the panel are the very industry representatives who brought the disaster to our people. What you don't have on the panel are the likes of Dr. Andreas Lehman, who's been on your show, the international expert. You don't have the Petrolab, people who are testing the blocks in Britain. So you don't have the very people who are pointing up what needs to be done for change. So I'm very, very clear from Mary Lou McDonald's visit last year. We have I think the next Taoiseach of this country, and Pierce Doherty, we have the next Minister for Finance, and Owen O'Brien, we have the next Minister for Housing. And I am saying today to the people of Donegal that we are absolutely committed to righting this wrong, to the bottom of our hearts, absolutely committed. But the problem is the next election could be 2 years away. And that's what breaks my heart, is that we're going to have to fight on. Michael Doherty is going to have to find the strength again, all the other campaigners, and fight on. People need it now. They can't wait till the next election. But if it has to come to that, I want to say to people today, we will absolutely do what's right when the time comes.
Okay, thanks for all of your time this morning again. I do appreciate it, as I do the time of Michael Doherty and Deputy Joe McHugh. One voice that you may have wanted to hear from this morning was that of Minister Charlie McConalogue. He voted with the government. We extended an invite to him. He says he's unable to chat to us due to a family commitment. Okay. 086 60 25,000, that's the WhatsApps and texts. 086 60 25,000. Give us a call on 07491 25,000. We'll be back after these.
Dunfanaghy Golf Club on the Wild Atlantic Way. Open week starts the 14th of July through to Sunday the 24th of July 2022. Free ball, better ball, open ladies and gents stroke in Stableford, and the popular 4-ball better ball and classic. Just some of the daily competitions you can enjoy. Hit the fairways, enjoy the crack, then sample the fabulous food served daily at the 19th Hole Bar and Grill. To book, call 074 9136335 or visit dunfanagygolfclub.com.
Build a better future with a digital transformation course. With digital transformation courses from Advanced Centre, you can improve the way we work together and do business. The power behind 3 of Ireland's leading universities, UCD, ATU Sligo and TU Dublin, have combined to offer flexible, accredited digital transformation courses, from individual modules to full programmes. Starting in September, your future is enrolling now. See advancedcentre.ie.
The all-new Kia Niro and e-Niro are coming. Available in a plug-in hybrid and full electric version. All-new styling and all-new technology. This car will blow you away. Currently taking orders with stock arriving in July and August. Call us today or visit our website imotors.ie.
The All-Ireland Ladies Championship continues this weekend. Donegal will face off with Dublin at the quarter-final stage on Saturday afternoon. You can follow the action live on Highland from the 2 p.m. throw-in Park Sean McDermott in Carrick-on-Shannon. Coverage of the Donegal Senior Ladies in the All-Ireland Championship is in association with Henry McGinley & Sons Limited, Milford, Donegal, specialising in structural steelwork, cladding and PVC roofing systems. Call for a quote on 074 9153181.
It's the 50% off mega summer sale at Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring. Up to 50% off all tiles, wood flooring, outdoor slabs, cladding and bathware. Everything in store has been slashed in price. The Right Price Tiles and Wood Flooring 50% off mega summer sale. Stores nationwide. Sale now on.
The award-winning Genesis Aesthetics and Skincare Clinic Udor now offers a wide range of skin boosters. The injectable moisturiser for under eyes that improves dark circles, fine lines and wrinkles. Also treating the face, neck, chest and hands. This amazing treatment works from the inside out, resulting in brighter, smoother, plumper skin. For help choosing the right aesthetic treatment for you, contact Mary Ferry, your aesthetic practitioner. You can download the Genesis app or call 07495 32575.
Summer Garden offers you won't want to miss this weekend at your local Homeland. Peru Rocking Garden Chair $199, save €100. Omega 200 Gas Barbecue $179, save €50. Available in store and online at homeland.ie from Friday the 8th to Sunday the 10th of July, only while stocks last.
The wait is over. Chris Norman, the original voice of Smokey, plays Lennon Festival Ramelton on the 9th of July. Hear Chris and his band playing all the hits. Oh Carol, Mexican Girl, Don't Play Your Rock and Roll to Me, Alice, plus many more hits. Tickets on sale from universe.com and local outlets. For full details, follow Lennon Festival Ramelton on Facebook. That's Chris Norman and his band, presented by Joe Gallagher Entertainments.
Visit Oakfield Park this Thursday the 7th and enjoy the first Teddy Bears picnic since 2019. This famous event is one of Oakfield Park's most popular, and you can join in anytime between 12 and 5. Bring your teddy and meet the Oakfield Bears, Peppa Pig, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger and friends. Visit the Teddy Bears Hospital and have your bear scanned and receive an Oakfield Health Cert. There'll be outdoor games, crafts, gummy bear hunts, nature walks and train rides all day long. No booking fee, no pre-booking is necessary and normal gate fees apply. See you for the Teddy Bears picnic this Thursday at Oakfield Park, Rafo.
All right, on to another issue which we've talked about quite a lot on this programme, and that is security in local parks and play areas in and around Letterkenny. And often the calls are triggered following an instance of antisocial behaviour. Councillor Kevin Bradley is the latest to raise this issue. Good morning to you, Kevin. I'm sure you've talked about this before.
Morning, Greg.
On this programme. Good morning, Kevin. Yeah. Right, so you're calling. What are you calling on the council for, please?
More security and cameras installed in these parks. There's some of the loveliest parks in Letterkenny, I suppose, in every town in this county. But then the antisocial behaviour is going on at night. When you get up in the morning, the parks are full of glass, bottles, tons. They won't even lift their rubbish behind them. And this is happening overnight. This is not happening this doesn't happen during the day.
And there has been conversations previously about security companies doing occasional, scouts around these areas. Do you know of anything like that actually is happening?
Greg, nothing ever is done about it, Greg. When all said and done, there's more said than done, Greg, and nothing's ever done. They need to be taking more action to protect the parks, protect the young people. It's nice to have a place to go to walk about, but there's nobody there to demand to make laws, but nobody does them,
So you're looking for an increase in security cameras?
Looking for security, yeah. The year 2022, cameras should be installed in all them parks. Even the Town Park there, like the vandalism and stuff that's going on there. Even as a deterrent, even the cameras there,
Mm. There are systems that can be employed, that even have an audio element to it that can say, people aren't allowed to congregate in this area, or this park's closed, please move on, or we'll have to call the authorities. There are means and ways if there's a will.
There definitely has to be something done here this time about it, Greg, and we'll keep bringing the nation up next Tuesday's meeting, so please God, something happens.
Okay, right, okay, we'll follow with interest. Thank you very much. That's Councillor Kevin Bradley there. Some of your comments just before we take a break for the news at 10. A caller says the government are willing to spend 9 billion plus on one metro line in Dublin, but are not willing to help the Mica families 100%. Big shiny train versus homeless families, they say. And you know what, even and this is not in any way to dilute your point, by the way, because it stands very well there, but we heard last week of the fact that it would cost 320 million to build a rail link from Derry to Letterkenny. So let's just say that this money was ring-fenced only for public transport. 9 billion plus, and when you say 9 billion plus, it's actually 9.5 billion, and that 5.5 billion would be enough to build a link between Letterkenny and Derry by rail. It's a rounding up figure in terms of a So, if this government were also committed to the Northwest, wouldn't you think they'd be providing us some alternatives? Okay, anyway, I hope you don't mind me jumping on the back of your point, but it's something I meant to mention yesterday and didn't get around to. Unless all Mica pyrotite homeowners cease making mortgage payments, they will not be given the required attention by the government, but that won't happen, so there will not be any solution for those who cannot afford to even apply for the current Mica redress scheme. Now, not paying your mortgage has huge ramifications in every aspect of your life, and there's no proof that it actually would have the desired effect you talk of. But I understand that we're trying to come up with solutions. I just think people would struggle even to get a mobile phone contract and probably still be sitting in a house and receiving all these horrible warning letters that can come through the door. But I understand exactly where you're coming from. Okay, let's take a break for the news obituary notices, and then we'll come back with more, including after 11 o'clock, taking your gardening questions. So if you have any questions for Paul, get them in nice and early.
Since she got her free hearing aids with her PRSI at Specsavers, Roisin is a changed woman. Music has never sounded better, and that makes her dance. And dance. And dance. Her singing, though, well...
Free hearing aids with PRSI at Specsavers. Music to your ears. Find out more online. Terms and conditions apply.
This is a notice for all tractor and agri-plant owners. Minimise your downtime when you need tyres and call Donegal Tyres Donegal Town. We can go to you and fit your tyres on site or repair your existing tyres if you have a puncture. Don't waste time and leave the hassle to us. So call Donegal Tyres now on 074 9721 482 to organise your call out.
For great food in the heart of Letterkenny's Cathedral Quarter, step into Dillon's Hotel. Using only the best local produce, Dillon's serve an extensive menu every day from 12. Perfect for a quick bite, a relaxed lunch or a leisurely dinner. Try the renowned 4-course Sunday lunch with full table service. Or if you work in town, why not pre-order and have your lunch waiting? Great food and service, 7 days a week at Dillon's Hotel Letterkenny, with live music every Friday and Saturday night. Visit dillons-hotel.ie.
Farmers at Teagasc Beef Open Day told they could treble their income. Find out how inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
Also, McConnell squares up to Ryan as battle to protect sector from cattle herd cuts intensifies. We've top tips for boosting fodder reserves and saving in fertiliser. Fears over ration prices for next winter ease. And we report in the first of the autumn wheeling sales.
Plus, don't miss your free guide to next week's Farm Machinery Show. Inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
They say you should have your second baby first, because with your second baby, you'll have learned what to do, what not to do, what's best for baby and best for you. Like the Loopy Loo range from Lidl. Everything your baby needs, including award-winning nappies from only 99 cent. When you know what to do, Loopy Loo. Available exclusively at Lidl. More for you. See our full range at lidl.ie/Loopy Loo.
Live, on air, online and on the Highland Radio app. This is Highland Radio News.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock. Donald Kavanagh at the Highland Radio News Desk. The new defective blocks bill passed through the Dáil last night as dozens of amendments were either ruled out of order or voted down by the government just before 8. The Ceann Comhairle made this announcement.
Tá 74, Neil 69, there were no abstentions, and the bill is carried and will now be sent to the Shannon.
That means that present foundations will not be included in the scheme. IS 465 remains the standard, and there is no facility to increase the cost cap outside of the Minister potentially choosing to do so once a year. Well, Housing Minister Darragh O'Brien told the Dáil that the scheme is still greatly enhanced, and he claimed the cost cap won't be a barrier to 100% redress. However, that was rejected by Deputy Thomas Pringle.
Just want to respond a bit to what the Minister said there. And the Minister is adamant that this is a well-improved scheme and everybody should accept it and that they're on that basis. I don't think anybody's argued here that this isn't an improved scheme on the previous scheme, but the problem is that it's not improved enough. And the problem is that families are going to have to wait and go through for the third iteration of this to come around to actually get redress and to be able to rebuild their homes. And that's what's wrong with this scheme.
The Mica Action Group PRO Michael Doherty was one of a large number of homeowners in the public gallery for last night's debate. A short time ago on the 9 till noon show, he shared a reflection he wrote after arriving home in the early hours of this morning. He said the campaigners will now regroup.
We sat in the gallery, filled with anger and tears, watching every affected homeowner get sentenced and fined tens of thousands of euros the rest of their lives, but no one could tell us what we'd done wrong. And that's it. And where do we go next? We need to regroup. We need to regather our thoughts and efforts on this.
Michael Doherty there speaking on the 9 till noon show this morning. Well, Donegal TD Joe McHugh resigned the party whip last night, eliminating the government's Dáil majority in the process. He told the Dáil that ultimately he couldn't bring himself to back the new defective blocks bill because he said it simply doesn't meet the needs of the people.
This is not over. It's not over for the people, and we still have to figure out a way of trying to make it better for people. And I'm talking in particular about the people who are my generation and a bit older, people who are going to find it hard to get a 30 or 40,000 loan up front, even to get engineering fees at second stage, to get demolition. Where does that money come from? There's a lot of shortcomings. There's a lot of work still needed to be done on this. My gut is telling me that this second scheme is falling short for too many people, and in particular for constituents in my own county.
Other news, and in the UK, Boris Johnson is expected to step down as Tory party leader today, but he will remain on as Prime Minister until a new leader is elected. More than 50 members of the British government have now resigned in the space of 2 days. Piling further pressure on Johnson, Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis was among the latest to go this morning. He said government isn't upholding values of honesty, integrity and respect. The former Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Tony Holohan, is taking up a new role in the UCD. He's becoming an adjunct full professor of public health at the College of Health and Agricultural Sciences. The job isn't a salaried position. He had been due to take up a position at Trinity College in Dublin, but decided not to after controversy over the Department of Health funding for what would have been an open-ended secondment. Police were in attendance at the scene of a road traffic collision on the Glenshane Road in Drumahoe outside Derry. Part of the road is closed. A diversion is in place on the Drumahoe Road Glenshane Road junction. Drivers are being urged to follow diversions or, if possible, take alternative routes. And Donegal County Council and Derry City and Strabane District Council has launched a new talent mapping programme for the Northwest City region. The aim is to help businesses drive investment into Donegal, Derry and Strabane. With more, here's Daniel Brennan.
The cross-border collaborative project between Donegal County Council and the Derry City and Strabane District Council will see businesses identify skill and talent needs that are required by local businesses. The project, entitled Northwest City Region Talent Solutions, will work with employers to identify skills needs in the Northwest and will also highlight to the public how they can use their expertise to showcase the wealth of talent already available in the region. Businesses and employees are being asked to complete online skills surveys to help map the skills that already exist here and to identify skills employers may need for investment in the future. The skills mapping platform has been developed by project partners Abadu using their Geognostics innovative technology. By having real-time data intelligence on skills clusters and gaps can be identified to enable both local authorities to make the right decisions to meet industry, educational and people's needs.
Much more on today's stories, of course, on our website, highlandradio.com. And if you'd like to watch last night's Dáil debate on the new defective blocks bill, you can do so via the Oireachtas website. There's a little tutorial on our own website, highlandradio.com, that'll just outline how you can do that should you wish to do so. Weather forecast quite cloudy today with most areas staying dry. Some patchy drizzle at times and highest temperatures of 16 to 20 degrees Celsius. Northwesterly breezes light to moderate in strength. Some light rain or drizzle tonight. It'll stay quite cloudy. Staying quite warm tonight though with top temperatures of 12 to 14 degrees. And that's Highland Radio News. We're back with news headlines again at 11 o'clock. Good morning. The obituary notices for this Thursday morning, the 7th of July. The death has taken place of Mary Doherty, Upper Main Street, Donegal Town, formerly of Carrickmahon and Tivney Bands, Clohan. Mary's remains are reposing at her niece Joanne Medlin's home at Finneman's, Barnesmore, Donegal Town. Removal tomorrow morning at 10:30 for Requiem Mass in St Patrick's Church, Donegal Town at 11 o'clock, with interment afterwards in Kiltyvogue Cemetery, Glenfin. The death has occurred of Dinny Grant, Upper Ballyliffin, Clonmany. His remains are reposing at his late residence. Funeral arrangements will be confirmed later. Family time, please, from 11 p.m. to 10 a.m. The death has occurred of Kathleen Wilson, Drumgorman, Mount Charles. Her remains will arrive at St John's Church, Inver, this evening at approximately 7 o'clock to repose overnight. Funeral service tomorrow Friday at 2 o'clock with burial afterwards in the adjoining churchyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to St John's Church, Inver or Donegal Community Hospital Patients Comfort Fund, care of Gallagher's Funeral Home at Mount Charles. The house is private, please. The death has occurred of Mervyn McClure, Lurgy, Letterkenny. Mervyn's remains will repose at his brother Derek and sister-in-law Janice's residence at Knockbrack, Letterkenny, from 12 noon until 10 o'clock today. Funeral from there tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, travelling via the Lurgy Road to Right Presbyterian Church, Manor Cunningham, for 2 o'clock funeral service of Thanksgiving, with interment afterwards in the adjoining graveyard. Family flowers only, please. Donations in lieu if desired to the Emergency Department, Letterkenny University Hospital, care of any family member. The death has occurred of Brian Dolty Boyle, Kincashla. His remains will repose at his home from 11 o'clock this morning with Rosary Nightly at 9 o'clock. Funeral Mass on Saturday morning at 11 in St Mary's Church, Kincashla, with interment afterwards in Belcrich Cemetery. Family flowers only please, donations if desired, to Dunloe Community Hospital, care of any family member. The death has taken place of Claire Traynor, née Devine, 256 A Lisnara Road, Donamanna, formerly of 93 Holyhill Road, Glenmornan. Funeral from her home this morning at 22:12 for Requiem Mass in St Mary's Church, Auherbrack at 12 noon. Interment afterwards in the adjoining cemetery. Donations in lieu of flowers please to the MS Society, care of Quigley Funeral Directors. Family time please from 11 o'clock tonight. Requiem Mass can be viewed live via the Donaghadee Parish channel on YouTube. And the death has taken place of Patrick Patsy Keeney, Leeds, England, and formerly of Kilrain, Glenties. Patsy will be received into Immaculate Heart of Mary Church, Leeds, on this day week, Thursday, July 14th, at 6:45 to repose overnight. Requiem Mass on Friday, July 15th at 12 noon, followed by burial in Killingbeck Cemetery. Family flowers only please, donations if desired, to St Gemma's Hospice, Leeds. Funeral Mass will be streamed online. For more details, including any family health guidelines for wakes and funerals, please go to highlandradio.com.
Okay, you're very welcome back to the programme, or good morning if you're joining us for the first time. We go over the first hour for the most part to yesterday's passing of the next stage of the defective concrete blocks bill. The general consensus here in Donegal, and I presume in other affected counties, is that it was a missed opportunity, and it is just simply repackaging, albeit slightly better than the so-called 90-10 scheme. Let's get to some of your comments here, which were coming in thick and fast throughout the hour. What a disgrace this government is. Well done to you, Michael Doherty, and everyone who's fighting for justice. Siobhan says the government is bullying its own citizens. You can't hand out to one and leave others without. Another, it just goes to show what Micheál Martin thinks of us up here in Donegal and what he thinks of Mica. He'll be some help to the people of the Ukraine. He's about as useful as a fork, trying to hold back the tide. Another caller says, this country taking in refugees, it's all about image, and our own people cannot get homes or the homes are falling down. I've nothing against refugees, but we need to look after our own first before we take others in. And I'm sorry to labour this point, but it really, for me, I feel it to be an important one. If there was not one single Ukrainian or any refugee from any other country in this country right now, do you believe a different Mica redress scheme would have been passed yesterday in the Dáil? If the answer is yes, you think they would have, well then I get your point fully, I get your point. But they wouldn't have. It would have been the exact same bill, whether or not there was one single refugee housed in this country or not. The people of Donegal need to get together, sign a petition to have a no confidence vote in Charlie McConnell to have him removed. He lives in a community worst affected in the country by Mica, yet votes against the very people who voted him in there. Fair dues to Joe McHugh for taking a principled stand with the homeowners. Shame on Minister McConnell. He showed his true his true feelings to the people who voted for him. Who were the independents that voted with the government? We can try and dig that out. Non-local. But there's a group there that have a wish list, and if they help the government out, they get something for their area. A caller says he knows as a whip he'll vote as his party tells him. It's an illusion of him having his own vote. He knew he wouldn't be allowed back to Donegal if he didn't make the right choice. Well, we can only take him on his word and hold him to it. He said that he will vote with his conscience or his beliefs into the future. Another caller says it just feels like too little, far too late. It's disheartening. It is disheartening, but look, we'll have to regroup and see where we go from here. Another caller says it's harder on Charlie McConnell. If he voted against, he'd lose the party whip when he couldn't bring anything to the county. Then he couldn't bring anything to the county. Yep, there is that, of course. I mean, I think a lot of people, will feel it's that sometimes there's a choice that's so stark, right, that has huge personal consequences, or even consequences for other things. There comes a point where you make a decision and you have to say, right, well, what way do I want to be remembered on this subject or not? And Charlie McConnell, and he's perfectly entitled to, has made his decision on that. But there was a choice, and people have a choice. Joe McHugh made his choice, Charlie McConnell made his choice, and the people will decide what the implications of that are. But it's not like one didn't have a choice. Fair play to Joe McHugh. At least we know now he has a mind of his own and cares for the people who voted for him in Donegal. That's what that listener believes. Let me see here. Why didn't Joe McHugh withdraw from government years ago when Mica first came to light, and not when he was finished with them? His argument would be, and he made it there, so I'm not speaking on his behalf, is that perhaps he thought that right up until the last minute that he possibly could have influenced the decision, and when that was clear he couldn't, that's when he was made a decision to lose the whip. Strong words, Greg, regarding Michael McLaughlin and Ukraine, but so very true. He's a false human being is what they describing as. This is great to see. Petrol prices, diesel prices have dropped below €2 around the county. About the time the prices have started to go down. Hopefully this is the start of them dropping everywhere. I'm sure your listeners will be glad to see it. I think it depends on how much diesel and petrol they buy in and how much they shift. It seems they were able to buy it at a lower rate, and in a number of places now it is below €2, which we're kind of glad to see. But remember when we were bricking it because it was about to hit 190. It's amazing how we can be conditioned as humans, isn't it, to accept a terrible situation, but simply because we've lived through a slightly more terrible situation shortly before, we forget where we were at. But look at it's good to see it. Hi Greg, I'm appealing for information about youth homelessness services. There's an 18-year-old girl who's been left without anywhere to stay. I'm waiting to hear back from the SVP and the North West Simon community. Any info at all would be great. Did you go to the council? Because the council have systems and mechanisms in place that at least should be able to get that person somewhere to stay in the short term. Because I've done it before in terms of the conversation. I would definitely try the council. Anyone, any ideas? An 18-year-old girl left without anywhere to stay. The caller's already made contact with SVP and the North West Simon community. In an emergency accommodation situation, isn't it the council that she might have a bit of success in seeing there? As I say, that's the way I've been directed in the past. Okay, let's take a break for the bingo numbers. Good luck if you are playing today. I hope you win.
It's time for NCBI Bingo on Highland Radio.
It's Thursday the 7th of July, Jackpot Day. You're playing on a pink coloured sheet. The reference number is S14. It's game number 27. Today's jackpot is €8,400. Today's jackpot number is 40. The numbers are the number 9, 64, 20, 11, 16, 81, 42, 86, 28 and 38. Phone your claim to 9104833 before 8 p.m. tonight, leaving your name, contact number and the name of the shop where you purchased your book. Get all your NCBI Radio Bingo information at highlandradio.com.
Attention all staff. Clean up on aisle 4, please. That's a clean up on aisle 4. And Jacob, who's popped in for a pint of milk, has diabetes.
We don't always know who's at risk from COVID-19 and other viruses, but we do know how to protect them. Keep hands clean and wear a mask. Let fresh air in, get vaccinated and stay at home if you are unwell. From the HSE, for us all.
Experience Grammy-nominated music sensation Celtic Woman on their all-new tour, Postcards from Ireland, Millennium Forum Derry, Friday the 12th of August. Tickets from £29.50 on sale now. See millenniumforum.co.uk and celticwoman.com for details.
Driving a Fiat 500e is choosing an all-new, all-electric car with an impressive range and 0 to 80% fast charging in 30 minutes. It's choosing a car that's so full of tech it will confidently and safely drive you into the next decade. It's choosing to believe in a better tomorrow. Welcome back, future. Fiat 500e prices start at €24,995 after government subsidies. Book a test drive at Joseph Doherty Limited, Moville, or visit fiat.ie.
At Hickey, Clark and Langan Insurance Brokers, they compare quotes from all the leading insurers, so you get a great price. Home, motor and van, farm, holiday home, travel and liability insurance, they quote them all. so if the worst happens, you're covered. For a competitive insurance quote today, call Hickey, Clark and Langan on 9126688 or pop into their office at Ballymacool, Letterkenny. Hickey, Clark and Langan General Insurances Limited, trading as Hickey, Clark and Langan, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Farmers at Teagasc Beef Open Day told they could treble their income. Find out how inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
Also, McConnell squares up to Ryan as battle to protect sector from cattle herd cuts intensifies. We've top tips for boosting fodder reserves and saving in fertiliser. Fears over ration prices for next winter ease. And we report in the first of the autumn wheeling sales.
Plus, don't miss your free guide to next week's Farm Machinery Show. Inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
The wait is over. Chris Norman, the original voice of Smokey, plays Lennon Festival Ramelton on the 9th of July. Hear Chris and his band playing all the hits. Oh Carol, Mexican Girl, Don't Play Your Rock and Roll to Me, Alice, plus many more hits. Tickets on sale from universe.com and local outlets. For full details, follow Lennon Festival Ramelton on Facebook. That's Chris Norman and his band, presented by Joe Gallagher Entertainments.
Okay, you're welcome back to the 9 till noon show. And I can't believe really I have to say this, but I think I do after, not give out this information after our conversation in the first hour of the show, that maybe if people are feeling particularly low today, that there is help out there and there's numbers out there for you to ring. One of them being the Samaritans on 1-800-247-242. As I say, it's an incredibly difficult morning for a lot of people and it could have been so different. Sorry, I beg your pardon. Samaritans is 116123. 116123. Pieta is 1-800-247-242. And can you believe that we've been put into a position that we as a people in the county whereby you feel such is a decision, a vote taken in government. And I just wonder if the TDs get this, because it's important that they should, that I feel that I have to read out helpline numbers for people that might wake up this morning or never slept this morning and are at such a low ebb. But that's the reality. That is the reality of the decision that people took last night, that I feel personally that I need to give out these numbers. The Samaritans 116123, Pieta 1-800-247-242. Frank joins us on the programme now. Hi, Frank.
No, not too bad, Greg. How are you?
I'm all right, Frank. You've been kind of reacting to the news from last evening and the conversation this morning. What's your view?
Well, it was just something I saw on the internet yesterday. I just texted it onto the show there. On the Irish Times website yesterday, there was an article where, like yesterday of all days, Simon Coveney, in an interview with Irish Times, told them that Ukraine, we will be adopting an area in Ukraine to rebuild it, and are adopting areas or whatever around Ukraine to rebuild them after the war. But no wonder those Mica families, I don't have Mica, thanks be to God, but they must be, no wonder they feel so betrayed. This government is like it's as if they're rubbing their nose in it, you know. But that's just personally my feeling.
Like the timing of it yesterday, whilst the sentiment might be okay, it's the timing of it, it's the wording of it. You think it's adding insult to injury to those whose homes around them are crumbling.
It is, of course it is. And like we've enough. Like, what do we want to do? Do they want Ireland to save the world? We can't save the world, you know. We've enough problems in this country ourselves, you know. And I know people they like to feel that we can save the world, but we can't. We've enough. Like them people, first priority should be sorting out those people, you know, with their houses crumbling down around them. Like yesterday in RT News, there was Michael Martin going over around Ukraine. And it showed you, I don't know, I think they struggled to find buildings that were badly damaged. There was two buildings there kind of burned out, but and beside them then there was buildings in pristine condition.
Yeah, well, I know where you're coming from, but unfortunately the Russian missiles as such as they are able to destroy buildings and the outskirts of Kiev are destroyed, and hundreds of just regular people like you and me, Frank, were gunned down by those acting on behalf of Putin. I don't know if it benefits us by questioning that element of it, though. But I understand where you're coming from, Frank, and I'm not trying to change your view or contradict you, but you know yourself, it's just a conversation.
No, that's fine. Like even the way the Ukraine thing has been pushed, and there's other, they're kind of like independent journalists on the internet, and they're showing that a lot of this thing is kind of, what would you call it, what do they call that, false flag? A lot of the damage has been
The only thing
done,
I'd say about that, Frank, is as much as, like, say, for instance, and it's well grounded that you have a distrust of, say, for instance, what Michael Martin might say, or what a newspaper might say, or what RTE or what we might say. And I can understand that, because we're all very frustrated and it's getting worse now, particularly with the squeeze that's on us all money-wise and stuff. We also have to remember that, a lot of the independent journalists that you talk of, they make a lot of money pushing their narrative. They're often backed by bigger organisations. Do you know what I mean? It's always good to check their independence as well, because they've got oftentimes they have a horse in the race, so to speak. Do you know what I mean? So I think I'm not even going to. I think it's good if we look at
today is about the Mica families. And honestly, that was the reason. Like I was saying to your girl, your receptionist or whatever there, that I didn't even want to come on. I said, could you get one of the families to come on? She says, well, just as so. But I don't have Mica. I feel so sorry for those people. But that story in the Irish Times yesterday, I thought, my God. There they are. They want to rebuild Ukraine, but they can't sort out the people in Donegal.
And Frank, the reason we invited you on, by the way, and I'm pleased you did, by the way, and let me say that, thank you for coming on, is because your point comes better from you rather than me reading it. So that's why we try and get you on, and then you can express as you wish, Frank. So that's why, and I appreciate you taking the invite.
All right, thank you.
All right, good man,
bye,
Frank. Take care of yourself. All right, thanks very much indeed. Right, a caller says, or it wasn't a caller actually, someone contacted me, a few people actually contacted me on different issues here on social media overnight. Hi, Greg. I just want to get past this stuff here. I just want to rant about something that must affect a lot of parents, but not sure it has been highlighted, okay? And a lot of you out there are affected by this and will be able to help this listener. So if you could listen up, if you've had someone just turning 18, it's a question about children's allowance and college and stuff, right? So let's see if we can help this person. I just want to rant about something that must affect a lot of parents, but not sure it's been highlighted. My son completed his Leaving Cert in June and is not 18 until November. He has applied to CEO and hopefully will attend third level college in the upcoming academic year. Today, though, I was expecting children's allowance for him as normal. As Citizens Advice, the advice it's paid until a child is 18 and in full-time education. I received no correspondence to say he's no longer eligible, or I would have to apply once he finished second level education. Now, as I related back to this listener, they normally send you a letter stating that, the eligibility is changing, and you can normally fill out some information or provide some evidence to keep going. I just wonder maybe if the gap here is that letter wasn't received. But anyway, her son is not 18 until November, but the children's allowance didn't go in this month, and they're wondering what's going on. What are they entitled to? If you can help us there, 086 60 25,000 or call 074 91 25,000. Now, an act of kindness, another message that was sent in to us, and I'm delighted to share with you. It's from a listener. It's from Linda and Tegan. My granddaughter and I were in Dunlow on Wednesday. We went to Caprini's restaurants for lunch. It was around 3:30. We sat at a table and gave our order. While waiting for our food, the young couple in the next table to us got up and left. The waitress brought us our food and asked if I knew the couple that was at the table next to us. I said no. She said they paid for our meal and said it was their act of kindness for the day. I would like to say thank you both so much, as our trip to Dunlow was to purchase a lookalike dog statue for my granddaughter's little friend and companion, Bear's grave. He passed away a few weeks ago. Thank you both. I hope you hear this. It was a much appreciated. It brightened our day. Coming in from Linda and Tegan. Isn't that nice? They were in Caprini's restaurant. A couple next to them, just as they were sitting down, were getting up, and they went up, and their act of kindness was to pay for Linda and Tegan's lunch. And it fitted in nice because they were on a nice little trip together in going to purchase a statue for her companion Bear's grave. Okay, so isn't that nice? Well done to that couple, wherever you are. Hopefully you're listening, and just to know that your act of kindness made someone else's day. A caller says, I don't have Mica. I feel so sorry, though, for these people. How much more can they take in this terrible situation? Another, there has to be a peace agreement brokered and war destruction stopped before any real building to be bombed again. Yeah, well, listen, no one knows Vladimir Putin's intentions or motivations, and it's certainly not something I wouldn't bother rebuilding just yet anyway. Charlie McConnell did not vote for the Mica people, so we must rise above that now. I agree with you, Greg. Making the excuse that the government has to help the refugees is ludicrous. It would not have made any difference. It's very wrong what the government has done. We're all behind the fight for the Mica people and their homes. So much hard work from Michael Doherty and the team. It's disgraceful the way they and Donegal have been treated. Greg, how come petrol and diesel prices are coming down but not heating oil? Good question. Because obviously I go home and have all these same conversations ourselves. But we were, pricing home heating oil, and it's crazy, like $7.50 for 500 litres. It used to be about $250, $300. And you're wondering, do you buy it now? Do you wait until the winter? Can you get the money together to buy it now? So I don't know, but I was having the same conversation yesterday. So if someone can explain that to us. It's about supply and demand. It's about the price of the US dollar. It's a price of a barrel of oil. There's lots going into it, I don't know. But good to see the local retailers putting that discount on that they've obviously received. A Buncrana man says the responsibility lies with the people who voted for the government this past 100 years. Okay. It's not very sympathetic to what they're going through, but I understand your point of view. All right, you're the listener who had their children's allowance cut off, even though the young person is not 18 till November. This caller says you need to wait until September to reapply and get the college to fill it in and get the children's allowance backdated till July, but it will not happen until the form is filled in by the college. Okay, so isn't that encouraging? It's no good for the moment because you don't have the money at the moment. But this caller says if you wait till September, you reapply for children's allowance, then you get the college to fill in the details, and the children's allowance will be backdated till July. All right, well done. Thanks for that. Hopefully that's encouraging for our listener, because I know exactly what that listener is going through. Even though it seems like a situation that happens to a lot of people, you go onto the likes of Citizen Information or the department's website. It's actually really quite hard to find that type of information, something specific to you. But lots and lots of people are in the same boat. Why is there calls for a new footpath out by the Ora, Ballymacool area? There already is a footpath there. This is just certain councillors blowing their own trumpet and wasting public money. My understanding is from listeners, and whatever about councillors, is the concerns they have there is it's too narrow. And secondly, they have concerns about the crossing there, the lines of sight. It can be quite dangerous. We've covered that a few times. I haven't heard from a councillor on that, but it must be down for a debate in the chamber on Tuesday.
For all your pharmacy needs and healthcare advice at this time, McGee's Chemist in Letterkenny are here to help. Things may be a bit different right now, but you can always rely on McGee's. Prescriptions can be ordered over the phone or online at mcgees.ie, and you'll be contacted when it's ready for collection. McGee's Chemist, Main Street, Letterkenny, and at mcgees.ie. Here to help with your health and well-being.
Don't miss All Folked Up live at O'Flaherty's Buncrana this Saturday. That's All Folked Up live in Buncrana this Saturday. Tickets available from eventbrite.ie.
Do you know how green skills can benefit you as an employee? Skills to Advance has a range of green skills courses to help you develop new skills, future-proof your job, and access highly subsidised flexible training. For more information, contact your local education and training board or visit skillstoadvance.ie. Boost skills, boost business with Skills to Advance. Brought to you by Sulis and the ETBs, an initiative of the Government of Ireland.
For me, it started with the specially selected Parma ham from Aldi. So silky, so melt in the mouth. You'll speak Italian after it. What about the specially selected sourdough cob? Irish, so you'll still sound Irish after eating that. And don't even get me started on the lime, basil and mandarin hand and body lotion. Shame you can't smell it over the radio. All this choice starts with Aldi. Every day amazing.
Hi,
Hi there, this is Danny McElhinney, singer with the band Thulis, Irish Mail and Sunday music columnist and proud Lifford man. I'm delighted to say that I will be on the Jimmy Stafford Show in Highland Radio this Thursday night. I'll be picking my favourite Irish songs of all time and chatting to Jimmy as well. Keep listening to Highland Radio, folks.
That's Centre Stage with Jimmy Stafford and guest Danny McElhinney this Thursday from 8 p.m.
All right, Edward Grant is the new ATU Student Union President. Good morning to you, Edward. How are you keeping? Congratulations, by the way.
Thanks, Greg. I'm keeping well.
Good stuff. Now, you are the Union President for former LYIT, that, or do you take presidency over the broader campus, so to speak?
So at the moment, I'm the Student Union President for Donegal, and I've got two other counterparts based in Sligo and Galway.
Brilliant stuff. Right. Okay, now, why did you want to take on this role, by the way? Because you've enough to be out studying bioanalytic science.
So I decided to take a year sabbatical to do this role because last year in welfare, I felt there was a lot of stuff policy making that needed changed, and I felt that the union going into the merger really needed strong leadership to bring it into any negotiations that are happening.
Right. I mean, and we've already been covering it at the moment, and we did last year. I mean, obviously, it's great to see the ATU established, great to see university status, great to see how it might grow. But the problem facing students and their families right now is, where are they going to stay? You might look at Letterkenny and go, right now, that's the place for me. But where are you going to stay? The prices are going through the roof. I think we spoke to a lady last week and it went from €80 2 years ago to €100 last year, and now the accommodation they're looking at 130. That's if you can get it. So that's going to be one of the biggest challenges, I think, Edward.
Yeah, and it's already really presenting itself. I know yesterday I had multiple calls from students as one of our largest accommodation providers decided they're not taking on students this year. A lot of students had their security deposit prepaid and were hopefully just going to be walking in the doors in September.
Can I talk to you a little bit more about that? Obviously, we won't mention the company because I don't know the ins and outs of it yet, but when you say one of the largest, how many rooms are off the market now, and did they give you a reason for the decision?
So it's in excess of 20 anyway. Right. The reasoning was they believe that renovations have to be done. It wouldn't be fit for students for the next 8 months. Wow. Now, again, I don't know the ins and outs of the situation, but I just know that students had paid their security deposits, and I thought they were in the clear. Now I'm struggling to try and find alternate accommodation for the year.
Okay, we might get the name of that company off air just to make our own inquiries, Edward, a little later on, if that's okay.
Yeah.
And in terms of, last year there was less people sort of offering rooms, and there was appeals put out on this programme and others, I'm sure. Do we know, in terms of the housing stock that's out there, is it up, down, or stagnant on last year?
So, as of current, we have our new welfare officer, Barry Breslin, compiling our list, and there is a lot of houses that are taken off the list, either because they're keeping students on from last year, or there's a couple bringing in Ukrainians or converting their houses to private rental. This is kind of the same situation we were at the start of last year, but we're hoping now that if we put out the appeals again early and kind of brand on the idea that we're now a university town, and we need to kind of expand our reach, hopefully we'll be able to get our numbers back up to last year, if not more.
Yeah, and the medium to long term, obviously, presumably, would be the ATU borrowing money and building its own accommodation. But that is a medium to long term plan. There are going to be pressures on accommodation this year and potentially next and the year after.
Yeah, one of the solutions we're looking at is trying to expand the current boundaries that we would have had.
Yeah.
So trying to put on public transport and trying to lobby to see if we have a cluster of houses out in, say, Kilmacrennan, that we might be able to put a bus route on to take students that mightn't otherwise be able to avail of it. But as I said, it's all about creative solutions at this end. Yeah,
of course, and the work starts now, because this is where the anxiety starts to build as well. Also, a couple of priorities for you. Other than that, inclusion and equality. Where are the improvements required in that area, as far as you can see, Edward?
So I don't know if you would have covered it. I say, with Simon Harris announced a $12 million budget this year for accessibility in the third level. And I know that a lot of colleges are starting to look at the model that Trinity is using down in their intellectual disability department. It's really, really brilliant, and it's about making sure that people with intellectual disabilities not only get the chance to enter third level, but get the opportunities to strive in it and achieve. And I think from a union perspective, it's making sure that the campus is open to ensure that they get to experience all the plethora of activities outside your main educational course.
All right, and anything else that you're going to be focused on? I mean, obviously there's the day-to-day stuff, Edward, and there's only there's only a certain amount of time you have, and you've enough on your plate there. But what else do you think needs addressing?
So mainly this year is going to be talking with the other colleges in Sligo and Galway to make sure that next year we have a joint team and we have proper procedures in place, that something can be tackled at a union-wide level, because at the moment we are still operating as 3 separate entities. Thankfully, I've got a really good team this year with Ian McDermott staying on again as our education officer and Barry Breslin taking over my position in welfare, so they'll take a lot of the load off in the day-to-day casework.
All right, good stuff. Well, listen, we'll chat over the course of the year, I'm sure. Keep the lines of communication open, Edward. Thank you.
Definitely will, Greg.
Take care of yourself, Edward Grant, the new ATU Student Union President. I don't know what's going on, but there's some amount of Westlife tickets available on social media. A lot of people are you changing your plans? Maybe was there COVID? I don't know. But a lot of people selling on their Westlife tickets. But nonetheless, thousands of you will be down there cheering on the boys, primarily from Sligo. Let's get you in the mood.
Everybody.
Alright, that's for the Westlife fans heading down to wherever they're playing. It's at 3. Anyway, okay. Councillor Michael McLaughlin joins us now. Good morning, Michael.
Go on, Greg. How are you?
Sorry for putting you through that. Right, okay. We were just talking about the lack of accommodation as it relates to ATU Donegal. What's your view?
Well, I think my view, my view, and it would be there as is the view of other students who brought it to my attention. To be fair, as well, it's my view as well, but it's not my idea. It's the students' own idea. I may add from West Donegal here that come up there, conversation both last night and other days there. That why, Greg, can the powers that be not sit down and be realistic about things? They have a huge car park there, reasonably big car park in there across the way there from the ATU, and could they not come up with a plan, utilise that, and build student accommodation there? You could, for example, do a multi-storey car park there. You still have the same amount of parking or more parking as needed, and also have accommodation then above it. A few levels, whatever many stories, would sort the whole thing out, and it would release the pressure then off the people that can't get houses, can't get flats, etc.
Will it get through planning there, do you think?
Well, I don't know, Greg, about that. I mean, that's obviously something that needs to be teased out going forward, but I mean, until they start talking about it, or bring it forward to the planners, who knows? Like, something we don't know. I don't know offhand if they would get planning or not, but I would like to see it going forward. The powers that be, the ATU, whoever wishes to know, those relevant people in a position to do it, bring it forward.
I suppose now the ATU have Sorry, go with your example, because there's a slight delay in these phone lines. Go with that example, because I think we're trying to make that point twice, Councillor.
Yeah, well, for example, now, like we have one or two students alone from Donegal here travelling to Galway every day to college. On the reverse side of that, then, I'm aware as well, I believe it's 4 possibly travelling from Dublin to Donegal every day to go to Letterkenny to college. This is the kind of sacrifices that students are making that's behind the scenes that the public are not aware of. I mean, hats off to these 5-6 students that are doing this, and that's only ones that I know of. There'll be ones as well dotted all through the country at various experiences, simply because they can't get accommodation, Greg.
Okay.
And if you're determined enough, you're only left then with that option: is get up in the early hours of the morning, get whatever transport you can, or whatever meets maybe then to get to your place. I say Galway. For some here, for one here at least from Donegal, and then Dublin. Then I believe it's 4 or 5. Then from Dublin, then to Letterkenny, early morning buses through the night, whatever the case may be, and go home at night again. That's crazy stuff over accommodation, and it's not going to get any better going forward.
Yeah, I think too. What the thing is though, and hopefully there's improvements made in the budget. And what's regrettable, what makes me sad, and it genuinely does. Is that families, with young people that probably could go on and do really quite well, and they're not able to do so. They simply can't afford to do so. So, your income and your status and where you're at determines what you can do for your children. Obviously, in terms of their education, that's an awful pressure and stress on families. There was one parent messaged us the other day, and I think their accommodation bill was €200 a week. I think it was €800. Can you imagine trying to find an extra €800 a month? Sorry, that'd be on most people. That I think maybe it's just the people I hang around with, but there's very few people I know that could take on €800 a month extra just for accommodation.
Very, very few, Greg, to be fair. It's not just the people you hang around with. That's just the reality for many, many people throughout Ireland, throughout Donegal as a county here, throughout the whole Ireland. This is the sad reality of it. Like, we are going back the way instead of forward here in many instances. Like, I know myself growing up, we had it no more than anybody else around this area here, Kilcarrad and Fanny, so on. Every townland at the time, back in the 80s, early 90s, it was hellish tight for our parents to get us going. Like, they managed it with a struggle, and I will say that for every parent around the place, it was a struggle. For example, ourselves here, I know, like, we had to sell animals. We were both one of the lucky ones. We had a bit of a farm and that, and thankfully Dad had some sheep and cattle and so on, and he's depending on selling lambs and selling calves towards the end of the year, Greg, to get us going for school.
And it was at a time you could make some money off it as well,
Well, the time you could make some money off it, but that's the way it was, and that's not just ours. That's repetition all across the country probably at the time, especially in the rural areas.
Okay.
And as you touched on there, for the less well off, and we're back at that situation again, and maybe for some people worse off again, because the price of everything now has got so serious. And that's where I make the point. It's like the ATU and places like it that have these possible
well, they're able to borrow now. They're able to tap into a pool of funds there. They will build accommodation, hopefully. It's how quickly it comes online and where it'll be located, but I presume that's very much part of the positives of having university status now. We'll see over time if we're still both about. Take care. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. Great coverage by Highland Radio on Mica. Pity national airwaves don't show the same. Michael Doherty and the Mica Action Group and 100% Redress Group hold their heads up high. It'll be 50 years before the truth about yesterday comes out, but the smirk on Leo Varadkar's face will always be remembered. Thanks, Highland, for highlighting the mental anguish. That's coming in from Patrick. I just wish, and I hope there's more I could do through this programme to try and ease that, other than to say that we as a county, for the most part, are still united, and we generally find a way, and it's just a case of maybe taking a breather, recharging the batteries, and see what's next. Joe McHugh has nothing to lose now by voting the way he did, believes the caller. Right, back to our listener who was in that situation with third-level fees, and we can understand. But I love our listeners because they help each other, and that's what's fantastic about it. And many of you texting in with the same response, which is really encouraging. When the son gets his place in third level, you send in evidence and you usually get back paid then for the months past. Another caller says, you register children's allowance. Same thing happened to me. Children's allowance. Same thing happened to me, as your child is not in full-time education till September. They will not get children's allowance, but once they start third level education, you will get it backdated till the child turns 18. Right, that's good news, isn't it? Just want to say too, there's places selling petrol for under €2 a litre. Why is this not the case across the board? Well, you see, it depends on what they bought it in at. So if you get a garage that sells an awful lot of petrol and diesel, they fill the tanks and they get it in for $1.90 a litre. Sorry, they get it in for $1.90 a litre. I don't know what the phrase is. And then they add on whatever profit they make, and it's at $2.05, right? But then their neighbour, their tank's emptied, they buy the next lot of petrol or diesel, they get it for $1.80, and they put on whatever profit margin they have, and then they sell it for $1.99, and then the next crew who were bought it at the more expensive price, their tanks are emptied, they get a new delivery at the lower price, and then their price comes down with it. That's the way it works, that's the way it's supposed to work, and that might explain the discrepancies that you see. The Gateway Singers are in concert in Christchurch, Buncrana at 8 p.m. tonight. Hope everyone will come along, says a listener, and enjoy a night of good entertainment, and donations would be very much welcome. Right, okay, we have to take a very quick break. Stay with us. Our next guest is on the line.
Going on holidays this summer? Look the part in any of the new Donegal jerseys, home and away. From Brian McCormick Sports and Leisure, your official O'Neill stockists. New Donegal GAA Nevada range, now in store and online. Donegal Nevada t-shirts with matching shorts. Donegal Nevada quarter zips, hoodies and jackets in fresh new summer colours. Available in junior and adult sizes. Look the part, play the part. In store or online. Click and collect on bmcsports.ie.
Does your little one have a jam-packed schedule? Kit them out at Dunnes Stores with a uniform that can keep up. Get joggers that will survive PE on the muddy pitches from just €5, and sweatshirts that will breeze through messy art projects from just €3.75. Pick up a comfy cotton-rich jumper from just €8, and packs of play-proof polos from just €3. Back to school at Dunnes Stores for little ones with big schedules. Shop online now at dunstores.com. Terms and conditions apply.
Love to grab a bargain? Get in line. Grant Shoes Summer Sale is now on men's, women's and children's shoes and sandals. You'll love the deals on some of our top brands. Skechers, Riker, Clarks and many more. Pop in store to Lower Main Street, Buncrana, or online at grantshoes.com.
The All-Ireland Ladies Championship continues this weekend. Donegal will face off with Dublin at the quarter-final stage on Saturday afternoon. You can follow the action live on Highland from the 2 p.m. throw-in Park Sean McDermott in Carrick-on-Shannon. Coverage of the Donegal Senior Ladies in the All-Ireland Championship is in association with Henry McGinley & Sons Limited, Milford, Donegal. For all your general queries, corner lintels and specialist fabrications, call for a quote on 074 9153 181.
Visit Oakfield Park this Thursday the 7th and enjoy the first Teddy Bears picnic since 2019. This famous event is one of Oakfield Park's most popular, and you can join in anytime between 12 and 5. Bring your teddy and meet the Oakfield Bears, Peppa Pig, Winnie the Pooh, Tigger and friends. Visit the Teddy Bears Hospital and have your bear scanned and receive an Oakfield Health Cert. There'll be outdoor games, crafts, gummy bear hunts, nature walks and train rides all day long. No booking fee, no pre-booking is necessary and normal gate fees apply. July. See you for the Teddy Bears Picnic this Thursday at Oakfield Park, Rafo.
A little bit of, I suppose, could you call it breaking news? It's being reported this morning that Sinn Féin now is to table a motion of no confidence in the government next week. And I presume the idea being that it will put the minority government's command of the Dáil to the test. That being said, the government had a vote last night. They passed it comfortably. It'll look good. It'll get the headlines, but I suspect it's a waste of time and energy and perhaps money. Because the numbers are there. I think they had, 68, 69 to 65 last evening on a second vote. So it's a waste of time, really. But anyway, they're doing it to test the minority. Not test the majority. There's no majority. Right, okay. Priests are set to be recognised for multiple parishes in Ireland's largest Catholic diocese due to the declining number of clergy. Let's take Dublin, for example. The Dublin Archdiocese has been described as critical by one parish priest. Father Duffy says 34 priests have died in the diocese since February 2020 and just one has been ordained. Now, that's obviously a very extreme example in Dublin, but I think it's being felt across the country, and what impact that might have on services such as funeral services. Mary Cuniff is from the Irish Association of Funeral Directors and joins us now. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Greg.
Right, okay. What is the concerns that your association has? And I presume it's not... I mean, it's obviously going to be worse in Dublin, but it's not confined to Dublin.
No, Greg. Unfortunately, it's not confined to Dublin. It's across the country, and as you said there, the lead-in, retirements are outstripping vocations, and where we have a population of ageing priests who are working well beyond the retirement age, and sometimes they're brought back from retirement to assist in parishes where a vacancy has occurred, and they're asked to minister there until such time as a suitable replacement is found. So it's becoming a problem, really, insofar as when a family wants to arrange a funeral. Now we're talking about funeral services. I'm really talking about funeral services here. When a family has a bereavement and they want to arrange a funeral director, and we take on the role of contacting the priest to make the arrangements for the funeral. That priest is likely to have at least 3 or 4 hours work involvement with that family. And that involves meeting the family, discussing the liturgy, conducting the funeral service, and then maybe travelling a couple of miles to a cemetery or a crematorium, conducting the committal service, and then driving back. So it is a very demanding role, and the priests, they don't have the backup, and they have significantly less resources available.
Yeah, so they're across more parishes. There's
right.
less of them, and they have a certain amount of time. And of course, a really important part of it, following a bereavement as well, is the spiritual support a priest wants to offer as well, and they give very generously of their time. Have you seen the situation across your membership worsening, particularly recently, or has this just been a slow building problem, Mary?
It has been a slow building problem, and it's getting to, families families have to get used to the fact that they are going to have to wait a little longer for their services, and that's becoming more evident now. Back some years ago, you could really predict that the funeral was going to be on Wednesday at 10 o'clock, let's say, or Thursday at 11 o'clock. But that cannot happen now, because we have to engage with the priest, see what the availability is like, see if we have a priest for a start, and then see what their availability is like, and try and fit into their diary as to where and when the Mass can happen. Now there's other factors leading into that as well, but our members, they will never make an arrangement to have a funeral on a certain day at a certain time without contacting the parish priest or the parish office first.
What do you see as the alternative, I wonder, Mary? Because giving lay people more responsibility, I think sort of recruitment and retention is obviously going to be a challenge going forward. To some extent, it's completely out of your hands. You're having to deal with what's there. But have you any ideas as to what might help?
Well, we're seeing now more involvement of deacons, and maybe in parishes where they still have an evening removal, maybe the deacon will receive in the remains at the church, and possibly going on then to do the graveside prayers or the committal service in the crematorium. And our parish teams, our funeral ministry teams, are getting more involved in the service. Now, they won't be conducting the mass part, but they will be able to do the other parts of the service, like prayers at the wake or in a funeral home, and then proceeding to the cemetery or the crematorium to do the committal prayers.
And the brief will probably have no choice with what we're talking about here, but do you think the sort of things you're suggesting would be acceptable to families?
I think they will.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, in my role here, certainly, families are very accepting and accommodating, and they do accept the fact that the priest isn't available, and that they are quite accepting of a deacon or a funeral ministry team to continue on with the rest of the service. They have no problem with that once it's explained to them. I mean, like the priest has other duties. They're oftentimes the administrators. They have they're on the school management team. Mm-hmm. They have, like, say, in April, May and June, communions, confirmations. They take up a large part of their time.
Yeah.
They also need a day off in the week.
Yes,
so, I mean, they need to have their day off too.
It's not a Sunday either.
It's not a Sunday.
Yeah.
It can't be a Sunday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they are very...
Okay. Mary, we've lost that link to you there. That's Mary Caniff from the Irish Association of Funeral Directors, but thankfully we got all of her points clearly there. Yesterday we were giving you advice about how to trim your hair. Today we're going to be advising you how to trim your hedge. If you want a question put to Paul from Varadkar Garden Centre, get it into us now on 086 60 25,000 or call 07491 25,000. Right, 11 o'clock. Not much happening in the world of politics across this country or across Britain, so Donald might struggle to come up with a few headlines for us. Anyway, let's see how he does. Good morning, Donald Kavanagh.
Thank you, Greg. Good morning. We'll find something, believe me. A special meeting of Donegal County Council will take place on Monday next to discuss the findings of an external review of the acquisition of 5 houses at Ancranagh Estate in Buncrana by the authority. It's understood the review, which was circulated to staff and members yesterday, finds the council acted properly and there was no impropriety in the transaction. The acquisition has come under scrutiny because some of the houses were subsequently found to have mica. As you've been hearing on the programme, the new defective blocks bill passed through the Dáil last night with dozens of amendments sought by homeowners voted down by the government. On the show with Greg this morning, the Mica Action Group's PRO Michael Doherty shared a reflection he wrote after arriving home in the early hours of this morning. He said that the campaigners had been sentenced and fined and still do not know what they have done. He said they will now regroup. Meanwhile, Donegal TD Joe McHugh has resigned the Fine Gael party whip, eliminating the government's Dáil majority. He said ultimately he couldn't bring himself to back the new bill because it does not meet the needs of the people. Across the water in the UK, Boris Johnson is expected to step down later today as Conservative leader. He'll remain on as British Prime Minister until a new leader is elected. More than 50 members of the UK government have now resigned over 2 days, piling further pressure on the embattled Prime Minister. Northern Ireland Secretary Brandon Lewis, one of the latest to go this morning, he said government isn't upholding values of honesty, integrity and respect. Former Chief Medical Officer Dr. Tony Holohan is taking up a new role in UCD. He's becoming an adjunct full professor of public health at the College of Health and Agricultural Sciences. The job isn't a salaried position. UCD says it welcomes Dr. Holohan as someone of very high calibre with experience in public health. Police in Derry have been attending the scene of a road traffic collision on the Glenshane Road at Drumahoe outside the city. Part of the road closed with a diversion in place at the Drumahoe Road Glenshane Road junction. And it's believed rising interest rates by the European Central Bank will help settle inflation. The Central Bank of Ireland is making the claim as it anticipates inflation could peak at over 10% this year, fall to 7.8% in later on in the year, and then fall to 4.2% next year. And there are the headlines. We're back with headlines again at 12 noon.
Okay, Donald, thank you very much indeed for that. Okay, Christopher, are you there still, Christopher?
Yeah, I'm still here, yeah.
My apologies, Christopher. I thought it was a comment and not a call, but thank you so much for your patience. We were talking about the ageing population of priests, a lot of them retiring and sadly some of them passing on, and it's not a unique Dublin issue or a city.
No, I think it's a nationwide problem. We've known about it for a long time. If you go to Mass on Sunday, you often hear the priests talking about it, or should I say priests talking about it. There's so few of them. I had the opportunity one time when Bishop Higgerty was a friend of the family, died, and his funeral was in Derry. We attended the funeral, and it was a unique opportunity to see how bad the situation was, because on the altar there was about 110 clergy. I counted them as they went down the aisle carrying the coffin, and it was a perfect opportunity to see the situation in real time. So of the 110 clergy, I counted 5 of them under the age of 60.
Mm-hmm.
That's sparse, you know.
Yeah, exactly. What do you? It's just an observation, Christopher, or do you see a solution?
Well, I had an opportunity one time in Dublin. I was at a conference where I met a student of Pope Benedict. So he actually knew Pope Benedict quite well. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to try and reach into the higher echelons of the church and just voice my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, what I told him was a story about Steve Jobs and Apple, the company Apple, you know. You're probably familiar with the films that were made about it, but Steve Jobs founded Apple, and then Apple, he basically got fired from Apple because he was running these pioneering projects that nearly bankrupted the company. But they later on then in the career of Steve Jobs asked him to come back to Apple to continue on, because they realized the CEO that they'd taken on from Pepsi didn't have a vision. And that's essentially what I see with the church at the moment. It doesn't have a vision. It's lost its vision. I mean, Steve Jobs made a very good point before he died. He said, if you want to be the leader in any industry, the decision that you take every day has to be one that either propels the organization forward or closes it down. It's you know, that's the price of being at the forefront. You have to be willing to take the big risks. So the church don't seem to take on outside opinion from the laity, and that's the problem I think we see, you know.
Do you think also there was an element because of the sort of the reputational damage that the church suffered for a while, that it kept its head down, do you know, in terms of recruitment or putting itself out there, and maybe now is the time that it can start doing that so more, I mean, I can't remember the last time we would have been asked to speak to anyone talking about, you know, becoming a priest or a nun or whatever it might be, being a viable option for someone. Do you know what I mean? It's not like anyone's saying, you know, no one's not using the media, for example, like us, to sort of say, look, have you thought about this? Maybe that's not the way it's done, or maybe that would be inappropriate, Christopher. But I just wonder, is it the time now for the church to get out there and start actively trying to, you know, recruit people or give people the option of this way of life?
Yeah, it's no harm in it. I mean, the media have obviously been very heavy on the church over the last 40, 50 years, definitely in the last 30 years, because of the scandals within the church, and that certainly didn't help. Like, I mean, those similar scandals happen in civilian life as well, you know. So to say that it was isolated to that one industry was wrong, you know. So they've been vilified as a result, and such to the extent that certain priests have said they couldn't walk down the street wearing the collar, you know, being spat at, and nuns in the same way. I just see a need now for the church to start listening to the laity, asking the laity what vision do they see for the church going forward, you know.
Can you think of a couple of changes, Christopher, that might help? Like, when you talk of listening to the laity, what do you think the laity are saying?
Well, I don't think you and I would agree on the kind of ideas I have, but I'll say them anyway. I just think the church should be more vociferous on current affairs. I mean, take, for example, not that it's probably appropriate to bring it up, but in the case of repeal of the 8th there, the Catholic Church is utterly opposed to abortion, but they were quite silent on it. How many priests did you have ring into Highland Radio to defend the unborn child? Very few, if any at all.
Well, they don't really play much of a role in that debate at all. But listen, that's everyone's entitled to their point of view, Christopher. And it's, you know, I try and tease things out. It's not that I agree or disagree, but I've spoken to people in the past. Maybe you were among them, I don't know, who would be content with a consolidation, even if it means the church gets smaller, but that it chooses its positions on certain issues, stands by them, and is quite strict in saying, well, look, this is what we believe, and if you want to be part of this club and you want to get confirmations and communions and all and what have you, well, then you kind of really need to be an active member of it. So it might lead to a more, as I say, consolidated, smaller church, but a lot of people would be okay with that. They say, well, listen, that's it. We can't be all things to all people, and we're trying to be, and it's leading to the church losing its identity, the Catholic Church.
There's nothing that the devout Catholics would like more than a closed, small, intimate audience with a priest. But that's not the way the church is supposed to behave, you know. It's supposed to be reaching out and capturing everybody. It's not a private club. The church will never thrive in an affluent society. The church grows in times of distress, and we're heading into those times now, with inflation being at all-time highs, unemployment going to be soon very high, businesses closing. We're heading into tough times in Ireland. If you want to look at where the highest ordinations are in the world, look to Africa. That's where they're getting the huge ordinations. We have a priest here at the moment who came over from Africa that I know, having spoken to him over and over again, called Father Innocent Sunu. He's a priest in Nigeria. He's been taken out of Nigeria and placed in Ireland now for 3 years, just for his own mental health, because Boko Haram come down into the village once a month on motorbikes and AK-47s, and they shoot whoever they see on the street. Now, Nigeria is a majority Muslim country, and as a result, Christians are persecuted in Nigeria. But, you know, that's an example of where the church is flourishing. So,
okay, but outside of, and we wouldn't want to see it, a similar situation, it would drive people to the chapels. Because I'm not sure if I was right or wrong in the scenario I gave or what I proposed. What do the laity?
I think like.
Yeah, go ahead.
What do the laity want?
Yeah.
Well, what we need now is an open synod where the laity come forward and we get to hear exactly their gripes with the church, what they want to see changed in the church. We know an open and honest discussion, which we just don't seem to be getting from Rome at the moment.
Like, do you believe the current Pope is too liberal? Do you believe you would need someone with a different attitude at the head of the church?
Well, the problem with Pope Francis at the moment is he's causing a lot of confusion. On one side of his mouth, he says that abortion is wrong, and he basically leads the Catholics to believe that he is utterly opposed to abortion. And then from the other side of his mouth, he does something that flies contrary to that. So he's taken a big tent approach, and he wants to bring everybody in under the umbrella of the church, and it's causing a lot of confusion. So that's the problem, I think. I suppose the simplest way to describe it is there's a pier in Donegal that has big metal bollards that boats tie themselves to. Those bollards never move. You know, people can they can go to bed at nighttime knowing their boats are safe tied to these bollards. Under Pope Francis, those bollards are moving, and that's causing a lot of confusion.
So if you have a boat, you've got somewhere to tie it. If you're a car driver, they're irrelevant to you, but the bollards are there nonetheless.
Yeah, I suppose so, yeah.
All right. The
church survived for 2,000 years, you know.
Yeah, of course. And these things go in cycles as well. A caller says the church hasn't so much lost its vision, it's lost its faith. Returning to tradition will be the way forward. If the church weds herself to the current age, she will become a widow in the next. Is that something you agree with, Christopher?
Hello? Yeah.
Okay.
No, I don't think the church should be wedding itself to the current age. That's what the church was always about. It's supposed to be like a marker where we can, like a benchmark, which we can look at as society progresses forward. It's a guiding principle that we run our lives by, you know. If it moves, well, then that's serious. It's like magnetic compass north moving, you know. You just can't. It's not a la carte, you know.
Right. So, say for instance, then we talked about. I offered the scenario about how it consolidates. It's got a clear identity, a clear message. Okay. And then it operates, and if you want to be part of that club, you're part of that club, and if not. I think then what people might have, that's fine if that's what people want to do. But then if you start to sort of then influence in schools or sort of influence in society or maybe, tell women that the decisions they're making are wrong and they might go to hell, would part of the church changing, as has been laid out, then maybe withdrawing from, if it had any role in some of the scenarios I've given there, withdrawing from that, or would the role of the church be to try and convince other people to join it? Does that make sense?
Well, just relate to your point on hell there. Nobody knows who's going to hell. Nobody can say. Nobody on earth can say that. That's a decision between yourself and your God. The church, the way I see it, is the church cannot adopt the current times. It has to stick by what it has preached for 2,000 years. If it moves at all, then there's no point in it. That's the way I see it. As regards to big issues,
Yeah, but and I would say you know much more than me on this issue, Christopher. But the church has constantly changed. I mean, if we were to truly go back to the church of 2,000 years ago, things would be very different in a number of different areas, wouldn't they?
No, I don't really see it as such. I mean, we're now legalising abortion in Ireland. We're not listening to the church on that. I was at the pro-life march in Dublin there on Saturday, and there was 3 archbishops at it. They also wrote a letter before the repeal of the 8th, and nobody listened to them. So, they are putting their opinion out there, but they're not being listened to. And I suspect that's more to do with the behaviour of the church this last 30, 40 years,
I do remember off the back of that letter you talk
lack of courage as well.
We couldn't get an interview at that time. There was and I think there was a lot of anger. There was a lot of anger that letter came really, really quite late, if my memory serves me correct, Christopher. Because I remember, a lot of people were contacting this program saying, "Well, where is the church in this conversation?" And I believe it was a late intervention into that conversation. But at the time, there was no one available, that might have been named or represented by that letter to speak on it, which probably talks to what you're.
I suspect what. At the time, the priests had no courage to speak out. They were probably in a situation where they felt they were compromised with all of the scandals that came out.
Yeah, I understand.
But
all
look, as things get worse in Irish society, people will need priests. They will be looking for priests.
Okay, well, shall see. I hope you feel heard. I appreciate your time in speaking to me, Christopher.
Okay,
all
thanks.
Right, take care of yourself. All right, 08660 25,000. WhatsApps and text that number. Right, a definitive answer, and all of you have given very good answer, but someone from Child Benefit who works in Child Benefit actually has got in touch with us. What they're saying is makes sense because you are entitled to, every child's entitled to children's allowance until they're 16. From 16 to 18, you're entitled to it whilst you're at school or in full-time education. So logically, I suppose, when you've done your Leaving Cert and leave school, it stops. But then it's returned at 18 if you go on to college or whenever you go on to college and backdated. So it makes sense, actually, when you see it written down. So I work in Child Benefit, says this caller. The over 16 form would have went out and the parent would have got it signed by the school, which would have put an end date of finishing school in June. Exactly what happened. Now, if the child is not 18 till they go to college or even July or August, the college can sign it and Child Benefit will be paid up to the month of the 18th birthday. So now, if you've been accepted and have your place, that's probably what's required. Yeah, same thing happened to us. Our son, not 18 until December, got no letter to state otherwise. Hopefully, he will be going to college in September, has the CEO filled out also. Yeah, indeed. And as I say, it does make sense because you would have filled a form that would have come to you, wouldn't it, leading up to his 16th birthday. You would have filled that and says, yes, he's still at school, but he finishes in, and it would have been presumed the date they finished at the end of the Leaving Cert. So it's all starting to make sense now. This caper of Michal Martin out in Ukraine, says another listener, is all about keeping NATO happy. NATO have to be funded, the upkeep of Ukraine here, because we are not told where this money is coming from when our own people needs are totally neglected. Right, let us take a break.
Build a better future with a digital transformation course. With digital transformation courses from Advanced Centre, you can improve the way we work together and do business. The power behind 3 of Ireland's leading universities, UCD, ATU Sligo and TU Dublin, have combined to offer flexible, accredited digital transformation courses, from individual modules to full programmes. Starting in September, your future is enrolling now. See advancedcentre.ie.
Beat the cost of Brexit with no customs charges. Do you need a UK address for your limited company or personal use? Space Hub in Derry can provide you with your own mailbox. Have your post and parcels delivered to Space Hub and collect at your convenience. There's brand new 20-foot shipping containers now in stock, ideal for all your storage needs at our Springtown and Coolmore depots. Find us on Facebook at spacehubderry.com or call 04871 878077 for more details.
One of the largest employers in the Northwest, TCS, is recruiting 200 new staff at all levels, from recent graduates to experienced professionals in business, tech, design and customer service. If you'd like to hear more, then why not call down to their Global Delivery Centre in Letterkenny for a chat with their staff on Thursday the 14th of July between 6 and 8 p.m. Registration is optional at openevening.tcscareers.ie.
Choose your local Centra for great offers this week. Like Centra Fresh Hour Strip Point Steak 360 gram, now €7. Coca-Cola 330ml 4-can pack, now €2.90. And until Sunday, Oyster Bay Sauvignon Blanc, now €9. Celebrate summer, choose Centra. Centra, live every day. Enjoy cost sensibly.
Paddington is in your McDonald's Happy Meal, discovering what he could be, like a magician or a chef, an artist or an astronaut. You can be whatever you choose with Paddington. And don't forget you can choose between a book or toy. Some fun, some food, it's all inside this Happy Meal. Until the 2nd of August, subject to availability from 11 a.m. Includes choice between book or toy, but not the specific range or range item. Supply issues may arise. Check mcdonalds.ie/Happy Meal for changes.
Okay, it's time to get into the garden now, and we're joined by Paul McLaughlin of Varadkar Garden Centre. Good morning to you, Paul.
Good morning, Greg.
What about this weather? I mean, it's not really gardening weather, isn't it? I mean, it's probably great for gardens. Moisture, bit of heat. I don't know. What is it?
Funny, it's good enough growing weather, if you know what I mean, but it's just pretty poor as there.
You can't get out and enjoy it.
No, exactly. You can't actually get out and sit about your garden as much. Like, this should be prime barbecue season, but it hasn't transpired so far anyway.
Right, so I mean, obviously, people then might be looking at their planting, and it might be looking really nice now, and they might think nature's doing the job in terms of watering. Would they be correct in that regard?
Yes, but it's still generally there's too much water about at the minute for the time of year. But it is the sort of weather here is very easy to make you relax, and you become complacent almost about the water. And so, like, if you're, say, your hanging baskets, your pots are in the shade of the house, they may not be getting the benefit of all the rain that's going. So it's still a good idea to check them.
Yeah, is the wind a factor? Because it's quite breezy at the moment as well.
Yes, the wind, in front of my own hanging basket, my own front door, walked in and I'd passed it twice a day, and it's actually a surprise. I checked it the last day, it was surprisingly dry, but it is just the constant breeze that's drying out stuff.
Yeah, so this misty kind of rain, then the breeze, it's not, your plants might be not getting quite as much moisture as you might
think. They're not getting as much as you think.
Right, okay. The lack of sun now, I mean, obviously when we talk of sun, we think blue skies, big yellow sun. I presume the plants are still benefiting from sun, or do they require the direct sunlight as well?
They are benefiting but for the time of year, there's just not as much sunshine as should be. So, like, the plants rely on the sun for the photosynthesis to actually make the green part of the plant produce energy.
Yeah.
So it's not getting the amount it should be at this time of year. So it would be a good idea to top up with wee feed.
Right. So we need to help them along with the feeding then.
Yeah, we liquid feed at this time of year, and especially if the weather does come good, they'll be primed just to jump at that stage.
Yeah, and they're hungry. The plants are hungry at the moment, aren't they? Right, and we need then to supplement the lack of direct sunlight they're getting. Basically. Okay, so don't forget, now is the good time then to start feeding and make sure to keep watering your plants. Right, okay. So, generally speaking, what tasks should we be undertaking around the garden at the moment, outside of what we've just discussed?
Yeah, generally speaking, I suppose the main thing you'd be looking at is keep vigilant for this weather. Unfortunately, it's just prime weather for slugs and snails and stuff. So it is. They love that sort of warm, damp weather. So just keep a wee eye for them around the garden, especially around your pots and stuff like that, because they really love this kind of weather and they're very active at the minute.
And ripping the heads off your flowers if they're...
Yes, pretty much. The deadhead, and keep on top of that as well if you want to keep the flowers continuing to flower nicely through the summer. Generally, whenever the flower starts to fade backwards, just nip it off, and that makes it produce another one, basically.
Yeah, in some of our earlier chats, Paul, people were asking about, when's a good time to start growing food stuff. Are we kind of in the prime time for that now?
Yeah, now, some of your crops that would have been in earlier, sort of your potatoes, almost some of them will be ready, onions should be ready, but it's still a great time to plant stuff like salad crop, that sort of thing. Even your peas and beans, you can do a second run at this time of year, and they'll grow along perfectly well.
And, obviously we know the usuals. Anything that's a little bit out there that we could be planting that thrives in our climate around now?
Yeah, funny, it's actually, people are getting into sort of food groups that sort of you don't see in supermarkets. So actually the Chinese cabbages, your pak choy, that kind of crack is all becoming very popular, and now's a great time to grow it. Sort of start it now, and you'll have it ready for harvest in October.
And is that for like salads and stuff?
Salads, or you just treat it like cabbage almost, but it's just
in other words, don't buy it.
It's just a wee bit more exotic, but it's just that sort of stuff is hard to find fresh in the shop.
Yeah.
So if you want someone a wee bit, or if you have a recipe calls for it.
Right now, too, will those lucky enough to have fruit trees starting to see literally the fruits of their labour?
Yeah, pretty much your fruit trees, your apples, your pears, plums, that sort of thing should be setting their fruit now, so you should see the wee sort of fruits emerging. Now's a good time to actually take a look around them, in case in some years you actually get far too many fruit on a fruit tree, and what it does, it weighs down the branches. Yeah. So it does. So it's a good idea to actually go along, and if you have a huge amount of fruit on a tree, is pick off some of it now and sort of thin it out.
Even if it's not ripe, you're actually doing it just to maintain.
Exactly. You're better off, say, on a spur getting 3 decent sized apples rather than 5 or 6 tiny ones.
Yeah.
So you're just creating more space for it.
And that might be hard for people to do, and they might not see the logic of it. But as you explain it, it makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly. Just get a lot more good fruits of a lesser crop, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, right. Japanese knotweed, it's ever present, but it's prime time now for it, is it?
Pretty much, it's really emerging now, and it's really, people see the clumps of it coming up, basically. So it's just in the last few weeks there in the garden centre, you get asked about it a lot, if you know what I mean.
It doesn't look invasive and horrible.
No, it doesn't look that way, but it is horrendously easy to spread. So it is. So it's just, if you have it in your property, but it's sort of got a very bad reputation the last few months, or last few years even. So it did, just in terms of damaging property and that. But if you do have it in your property, it's not as big a problem as basically a lot of the media make it out to be.
Yeah, I got you.
You know what I mean? So it's generally, if you think you have it, take pictures of it, come into your garden centre, get advice on it, and there are more effective ways now of treating it. The council seem to be having very good results in treating.
Well,
it.
in fairness, there've been a lot of the warnings that you talk of did come from the council, not necessarily from us directly, and others. And they were trying treatments really over the last couple of years. So you think they've kind of got a handle on it now?
Very much. There seems to be a lot of them are chemical treatments, but there seems to be a lot more effective treatments going, and areas that have been treated over the course of a couple of years are showing great results.
And people might be a little bit confused, and you'll see the signs where it's prevalent. Take cuttings and think, right, that looks quite nice, or that might be something else. Do people tend to confuse it with other plants and not realise it's quite as invasive and nasty as some might make out?
Generally, the reason Japanese knotweed was brought here was because it's quite attractive and very good at growing, so people may be tempted to, but obviously the council have warning signs up not to be taking cuttings of it, because 0.7 of a gram apparently of a cutting of a leaf will actually regrow again.
Right.
So that's what makes it so invasive.
I mean, and it's an amazing survivor, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It can get 3 meters in one season.
Yeah. Okay. And it roots itself well.
Yes.
Okay. So if people think they might have it, or it might be there, take a picture. Go to your local garden centre. Don't bring a cutting.
No, don't bring a cutting, because we could do without it.
Right, okay, don't bring a cutting, but bring a picture or something.
A few pictures, exactly.
Yeah. And you can firstly identify if it is,
yeah,
and secondly give advice into how to.
Because to be honest, it's because it's so prevalent in the media a lot of the time. It's not actually it, but people are prone to panicking.
All right, okay. We probably still might be able to get to your question if you get it into us really quickly. 086 60 25,000. Where can I source blocking compost, please? I've tried garden centres in Inishowen, Derry and Letterkenny to no avail. Any suggestions?
Sorry, what sort of compost?
Blocking compost?
To be honest, it's a term I'm not too sure.
Right, well, if you're not too sure, we might not have the name of it correctly. Listener, if you don't mind, get back onto us and just if it's blocking compost or what it's more commonly known as, please. Right, the gardens and flowers are full of snails and slugs. There must be thousands of them all over the flowers, and they're eating them. Is there any way of getting rid of them?
Basically, it's just we're victims of the current weather situation at the minute, so it's just there are loads of them about. Getting rid of them, probably the most effective way is you get slug pellets, is the most effective way of getting rid of them, and they're not as bad as they used to contain harsh chemicals. Now they're actually sort of more dehydrating agents that dehydrate the slugs, so you can get organic ones available too. So they're the most effective way. The other way
But when you're talking about a scale like that there, are you going to thin them out or get rid of them, or it might not work at all, or what?
it will work to an extent, and it's probably the most effective. The other probably more foolproof one is vigilance, is to go out about midnight with your flashlight and actually pick them off, which
big ask, isn't it?
It's a big ask, and it's not the most pleasant job either.
No, I would say so. Right, I'm getting very I'm getting also very soft. I don't know what's happened. In that I was going to flush a spider down the toilet the other day, and I actually went outside with it. I couldn't go to bed knowing I'd flushed a spider down the toilet.
Yes,
I'm not sure about ripping slugs and snails from plants. It might be a little easier. But
one of the kids and me doing the same. Every spider has to go outside and sort of find them a nice new home.
Yeah, okay. All the leather jackets around as well too. A few people texting you with leather jackets.
Yes, leather jackets are sort of an ever-present problem as well. This year there was no real frost over the winter to kill off the population, so they are quite prevalent this time of year as well. Once again, leather jackets, you can sort of physically try and remove them by attracting them to the surface and letting the birds do the work. Or there are more chemical sprays now available than used to be, but they're generally agri-spec stuff that you would have to sort of get specialist advice on.
Just on the knotweed, is it always a purple bloom? A caller says they've got has a knotweed got white bloom as well. They say, I know it has a purple bloom, but I've been told it could also have a white bloom.
Yes, funny, Japanese knotweed actually only has a white bloom. It only has a white bloom.
So what's the purple coming from?
Purple is Himalayan balsam. They're very easily confused, but basically the Himalayan balsam is much easier to treat, and it's actually not as big a problem as the knotweed would be.
Right. So, can I use surplus bark that I have in the bottom of my pots and window boxes before I put it into the compost?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Probably pretty much fill up to a third of the depth of the pot with the bark and compost, and just as you're doing it, take a wee look through it for sort of snail and slug eggs.
Yeah, you don't want to be fostering anything.
Exactly.
I have a monkey puzzle with brown tips. What can I do to help?
General feed would be the best thing. Monkey puzzles are very slow growing plants. So they are, and sort of generally damp weather can affect them badly. So a general purpose feed at this time of year, someone like your poultry manure, someone like that there, should kick it off and should bring it round again.
All right, what's the best flowers for a grave in winter, please? And is it too late to plant a rose bush outside? Well, actually, first off, let's start with what are the best flowers for a grave in winter?
A grave in winter, probably your best options would be, you get winter pansies, would be quite nice, give you nice sort of vibrant colours with them. You get cyclamen as well, which are sort of purpley pinky flowers.
Just had a wee bit of colour.
A wee bit of colour.
Yeah.
And generally the most common thing for graves in wintertime would be heather.
Yes.
You can get a great strike of colour from them.
Okay, lovely.
And they're actually very resilient. If you're not at the graveyard regularly to water them, they'll actually stand up very well.
Brilliant. Okay, second question from this listener. Is it too late to plant a rose bush outside? Their rose bush is thriving in the house, but they'd like to put it out at some stage.
Yeah, now's prime time to put it out as well. So it is, because now the weather's good. If you just put them out and keep an eye on the water, and basically
let's stay with rose bushes then. Tried sprays for what was recommended for a rose bush. The leaves are being eaten, and the bush looks like it's dying. They keep falling off.
Right. Probably aphids once again are quite prevalent at the minute. The products like rose clear, that sort of thing, would be number one. But any sort of general purpose insecticide should help that, or even if you want to go in a more organic fashion, like you're washing up liquid and water.
Right, my hydrangeas are wilting. What supplement can I use?
Generally, you get ericaceous fertilizer for the hydrangeas, works best. Any sort of, like some Miracle Grow, anything like that there will work. But if you want to do it specifically for them, for the acid lovings or acid hating stuff, you would actually use use the ericaceous feed, which you can get most garden centres.
What is the difference between compost and mulch? What is more suitable to use?
Compost generally has more nutrients in it. Basically, you have fertilizers and that sort of stuff mixed in through it, and it's going to feed your plant. A mulch is just a sort of treatment you put on top that helps the base certain amount of nutrients in it. But
is that just dead grass, churned up dead grass mulch?
A lot of the time, or even bark of trees and stuff like that there. And generally, what it does, it suppresses the weeds around the plant and helps to hold the moisture in.
All right, okay, yeah, that might make sense. It's like a little cover,
a wee blanket for it, more or less.
Right. I'll come back to that one in a second. I set grass seed, not lawn seed, as my lawn is exposed to wind and weather. What's the best way to feed it and keep it green?
Yeah, grass seed generally is just it's a heavier duty grade of grass. It'd be similar to the long grass or anything. So generally, sort of low nitrogen fertilizer, because with grass seed, if you actually put on high nitrogen stuff, you're going to end up with silage. Basically, like, it's going to grow very fast. So someone low nitrogen, like someone like 5-10, and that should help keep it green without actually growing it on too much.
Right, here's an interesting one. In Convoy, There is a green and orangey type thick dropping like a shower of rain, and it sticks to the cars, plants and all over the yard. It's hard to scrape it with fingernails. Some locals went onto the internet and found it could be coming from honeybees. Any suggestions for what it could be and how to get rid of it? So it's a greeny, orangey type thick dropping.
No, it's a new one on me.
Yeah, get us a picture of that.
Absolutely, yeah. If you had a picture of it, sort of. But I've never heard tell of actually, unless it's sort of excess pollen they're carrying or something like that. Dropping
Right,
down.
it's an interesting one though. Right, deer are going into my garden. They're eating all the roses. Any advice on how to deter them? Deer. Now, with cats and dogs, we've heard about before, but deer?
Deers are becoming a huge problem about our gardens and that sort of thing. A lot of people are using like sort of physical scares, almost to seeing people with like sort of hanging up bean tins that'll rattle over the course of the night, if you know, because it's generally sort of dawn, dusk that they do the damage. So you do get sprays to sort of deter them, just stuff you spray on. It's called grazers that they don't like the smell of and they tend to stay away from.
Right.
But it's impractical to try and fence them out because they can jump 10, 12 feet.
Wow, okay.
So they can actually, so generally it's physical scare, someone like anything's going to make noise, but once again they kind of cotton onto it too fairly quick. So
Okay. I've been told to put in a full medium-sized saucepan of water into my hanging baskets by a friend. I feel like I'm drowning them. It all leaks out the bottom.
Yeah. But no, that's pretty much good advice. So it is, in the sense that the hanging basket will only take on what it needs and the rest will leak out the bottom. So
Does it not wash out nutrients or anything?
Not particularly, not. To be honest, you would, if you're sort of looking at the ends of the scale, you're better too much than too little.
Okay.
And the excess will drain. So you're in no danger
Right,
of
that
drowning.
friendship's back on. So
Yes.
if there was any arguments, if you were arguing against that, sorry, listener, you lost.
Yes.
I put fertilizer on my lawn 2 months ago, but it doesn't seem to have done any good. Should I redo it? It was feed and weed.
Yes, you can redo it all right. Generally, most of the chemical fertilizers only work over the course of 6 weeks anyway. So you should have had the benefit from
Right,
it. So
okay,
if it's not doing what it should, now would be the time to redo it.
And combis, are they usual, or would you be better off getting something that's just designed for the one job? Or?
Yeah, no, it's funny. The combination products can be actually very good and they can work very well. But once again, the feed weeding, especially the moss killer, be the main agent in it. That works well, but it depends on how bad your case of moss is before you start.
Any ideas on how to deter green bottles from the garden?
Green bottles?
The flies?
Flies?
Yeah.
Right. Few plants that actually work well. They reckon if you plant a eucalyptus tree, something like that there will actually help sort of keep insects away. A lot of them don't like it, did midges and stuff like that.
A concern a caller has is that if you kill slugs with pellets or powder, that birds eating them can also die. Is that a concern you have?
That used to be the problem, but it's not so much anymore. It used to be the chemical and it sort of transferred like that. But now, like I say, they're dehydrating agents in them. They're not actually chemical poisons. So it's perfectly, because they've since banned the ones that used to do that. I can't remember the name of the chemical.
And another listener's wrote in on the blocking compost. They say, I think cocoa core soil is what the listener means as blocking soil. Coconut core soils comes from coconut palm husks.
Yes, I'm familiar. A core now as a term I'm more familiar with. No, it's not something we carry now, and I'm not too sure. Generally, a lot of the bigger corporations like your home bases stuff like that.
Why would you not store it? Like, is it because it's hard to source, or not many people want it? Like, why would you use coconut core soil over something else?
I suppose it's it's actually one of the peat-free alternatives. Compost, if you know what I mean. And what it is, it's the nature of it. It can be dehydrated and made into a tiny package.
Understood.
So it can. If you ever seen some of the supermarkets used to do like wee sort of seed kits.
Yeah.
That you got out. That was core compost came with them. It was like a wee tablet.
Is it expensive?
It can be expensive and it's hard to source in like your local garden centres around here. You'd only want maybe one pallet of it a year.
Yeah, I get you.
It's kind of not worth having.
It's a big outlay. It might not shift, and I get you. No, that makes sense. Right. Okay. Listen. Thank you so much as always. You're only down the road from us here, Varadkar Garden Centre. You're busy as always, I presume.
Yes, right and busy. All right. Funny. It's this time of year is actually you have a lot of sort of tourists and a lot of people, Scottish people, English people over visiting. They tend to, because they travel by boat, they bring a lot of stuff back, and that so it can be quite a busy time for us.
Okay. They don't think it's like a public garden. They can walk around in it.
No, I was
they're buying stuff as well.
Exactly. But I only want to look
It's
around.
a nice one though, isn't it? Actually, it's not something I would have thought of to come to Ireland and bring some
Yeah,
plants back
funny actually, a lot of people come here, see certain plants around the place, reminds them of maybe where they're from.
Do you know what? Actually, that's
they
never
want to
thought
bring them
about
back
that.
home. So now it's actually a busy time of
So
year.
they create through you guys a bit of Donegal in Surrey or something.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good stuff. All right, Paul, as always, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, we'll be back with more on the 9 till noon show after we take this break. Stay where you are.
Dunfanaghy Golf Club on the Wild Atlantic Way. Open week starts the 14th of July through to Sunday the 24th of July 2022. 3-ball better ball, open ladies and gents stroke in Stableford, and the popular 4-ball better ball and classic. Just some of the daily competitions you can enjoy. Hit the fairways, enjoy the crack, then sample the fabulous food served daily at the 19th Hole Bar and Grill. To book, call 074 9136335 or visit dunfanaghygolfclub.com.
This weekend, the Northwest Donegal Vintage Club will host their vintage show at their new location of Kildunfanaghy with classic and vintage cars, tractors, other vehicles and agricultural implements. Craft and artisan displays all welcome. There's also a fun fair, tea tent and trader stalls. Traders must call 087 2366 924. On Sunday, there's music with Alex and Sinead Black, Hugh McLean and John James. Enjoy a great day for all the family this Saturday and Sunday at Kildunfanaghy.
This summer, think barbecue, think fresh meat and poultry. All available every day at Chrysler Supermarket. Think fresh bread, salads, sauces and drinks. We have everything to make the barbecue extra special and tasty. Open 7 days for your convenience. Chrysler Supermarket, where quality and value are assured.
Leisureland Redcastle, open every day from 12 to 6. Fantastic for family day trips. Excellent value for birthday party packages. For a wonderful family experience this weekend, check out leisurelandredcastle.ie.
Farmers at Teagasc Beef Open Day told they could treble their income. Find out how inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal.
Also, McConnell squares up to Ryan as battle to protect sector from cattle herd cuts intensifies. We've top tips for boosting fodder reserves and saving in fertiliser. Fears over ration prices for next winter ease. And we report in the first of the autumn wheeling sales.
Plus, don't miss your free guide to next week's Farm Machinery Show. Inside this week's Irish Farmers Journal. You cannot afford to miss it.
Okay, the Irish Council for Civil Liberties has been looking at statistics as it relates, and I referenced this earlier, the passing of legislation right before recess in the summer and in the winter. Liam Herrick is Executive Director of the Irish Council for Civil Liberties and joins us now. And of course, we've got a big interest in this, in that a bill was rushed through last evening. Liam, good morning and thanks for taking the call.
Good morning, Greg. Good to talk to you.
Right, okay. Now, I mean, you have done the graph, you've got the statistics. What concerns do you have?
Well, I think the difficulty that we're seeing, and this really comes up from a number of important pieces of legislation that we were working on, in particular the Electoral Reform Bill and the Retention of Data Bill, huge, important pieces. Mica redress bill is also going through at the moment. What we were seeing was that as we come to the end of the Dáil term, that a lot of the normal stages in the parliamentary process were guillotined, which means that they basically were just circumvented, that the normal processes were being avoided in a rush to pass legislation in the last couple of weeks. Now, this is a pattern that goes back over many years. And actually, when you look at the statistics, what you see is that the majority of legislation that gets passed in this country, the majority of our laws, actually are passed in either the first 2 weeks of July or in the first 2 weeks of December. So at the windows at the very end of the parliamentary term. And actually the number of acts that are rushed through in this period is much bigger than the laws that are passed for the whole of the rest of the year.
Can you draw a conclusion for the motivation for that, Liam? Is that just the archaic workings of the Dáil and everything is sort of constructed that it leads up to, a big push before the extended holidays? Or can we conclude that it's in a government's interest to pass through stuff which might be controversial and then everyone's forgotten by the time the Dáil sits again?
Well, I suppose it's difficult to be sure as to what the reasons for it are. But I mean, if you look at it from this perspective, we have a good process. The process for passing laws in this country are laid out in the Constitution, and they give members of the Dáil and members of the Seanad, and indeed the President, a role in considering the legislation, in debating it, and putting forward amendments. And also, in the last number of years, we've had a pre-legislative scrutiny stage, which allows Dáil committees and Seanad committees to bring in out them on the legislation. So the process is very good. But what happens then is that for some laws, they follow that process and there's a good deliberation. And what happens then is we get good laws and we don't have unintended consequences because any errors or technical mistakes in the legislation get fixed. But then for other pieces of legislation, we skip a lot of those stages. And the result of that is that you get unintended mistakes and consequences, which will have to be figured out and be problems in the future. But you also allow governments to get through legislation that isn't properly debated. And I suppose you can either say that either the Dáil is moving too slowly for the rest of the year, or it's using this emergency at the end, sometimes an emergency created by the government's own agenda, to avoid proper scrutiny.
Is it anti-democratic, Liam? Is it anti-democratic? Because when you have a government with a majority, okay, they are able to push a bill through. They've got a majority on the Housing Committee, so they're going to get the cooperation from the Housing Committee. And then when there is any protestation or whatever as it relates to it needs pre-leg or it needs longer to scrutinise it before deputies have a vote. I mean, surely that is anti-democratic. And you, at the very least, you're not affording all TDs a proper opportunity to be fully across an issue that they're about to vote on. I mean, that's a failure of democracy, isn't it?
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more in that it clearly is a failure of democracy when legislation is going through without even giving TDs and senators a minimum opportunity to debate it. But I think what we've seen in the last couple of weeks is particularly problematic because if you look at, for example, the Electoral Reform Bill, really important piece of legislation, which ironically enough is about strengthening our democracy. And it's about how we monitor elections, how we run elections, how we look at political advertising, political funding. Couldn't be more important, right? But in the last number of stages, in the Dáil and the Seanad, the Minister for Housing came forward and introduced whole new parts of the bill, not sections, parts, running to hundreds of sections in some cases, introducing wholly new ideas. So there's a whole new concept about regulating parties that might operate in two different jurisdictions. And there's a whole new section, a whole new part that applies to the problem of political advertising and misinformation. Both of these are really complicated ideas and weren't debated at all. So, you know, it's not even that they're rushed. They weren't debated to any extent in the Dáil or the Seanad. And that really is a government trying to avoid Parliament. And I think the more this practice grows, it does indicate a government that just isn't really respecting democratic process.
Okay, so just, I mean, in relation to people's civil liberties, we have a scheme passed now. Obviously, I'm going to be focused on the defective block scheme. That it's a scheme that's promising something but is clearly not able to deliver that. People who have been wronged by the state because of the lack of oversight and enforcement as it relates to building regs are going to be precluded from a scheme because they don't have the resources to qualify for that scheme. Is there any way to challenge this in that this is encroaching on people's rights, the rights that they have, the rights to fair process, the rights to, I don't know, their interests being looked after by the state? I mean, can this be challenged?
Well, of course, once the laws are passed, people can challenge them through the courts in as far as they can go to the courts. But we should be doing a better job to try to get things right at the point of legislation. And the laws are meant to be the democratic will of the people. And when we see, governments using the majority to rush through legislation in this way and to avoid any even parliamentary scrutiny of what they're proposing, then I think it is cynical and it is anti-democratic. And the more we're seeing of this, I think it will undermine public trust in politics itself. Now, the Taoiseach, answering some of the criticism of this yesterday and the opposition pointing out all the bills that are being rushed through, he said, well, if the opposition didn't waste so much time with statements, we wouldn't have a problem. But I mean, that just doesn't stand up when the government is actually giving members of the Dáil a couple of days to see legislation.
Yeah, but also there is nothing, by the way, that there's nothing that could not have waited. This defective blocks bill, for example, it did not have to be passed before the summer recess. In fact, those that are affected by it said, we'll wait till after the summer to get it right. So I don't understand, because it's the government that has set a time frame. They can move that. You can't blame the opposition then.
No,
that doesn't make any sense.
It's a really important point. No, it's a really important point in this, because we can all remember situations over the years where there was an urgency to pass legislation. Like, for example, the legislation that was introduced at the start of the pandemic, which was allowing public health measures, but also allowing the social welfare and pay supports. We all understand that that's an emergency, and we all understand that sometimes things have to be rushed through. But you're absolutely right that a lot of these emergencies are fabricated ones. I mean, we had the situation last week with the electoral reform bill. There's no reason why that needs to be rushed through now. The government's been working on it for years, but the Taoiseach gave a political commitment it would happen before the end of the summer, so that's what's happening. If we look at the retention of data bill, the government is saying that after the judgment in the Graham Dwyer case, there's suddenly an emergency. But the Department of Justice has been sitting on this problem since 2014, when the European Court of Justice told them that the law was defective. So it's not good enough for the government to fail to act for years, and the Mica is another example of this, and then to say at the last minute, well, we need to get this resolved next week. So I think the only real answer to all of this is the opposition members of the Oireachtas, and indeed the backbench members of the government parties, need to stand up for democracy in a much more forceful way than they have up to now. And we can't be allowing the government.
But you know what the problem is though? Say, for instance, some of these committees, if they were dominated by opposition parties, we'd be highlighting problems from a different angle. If you get where I'm coming from, because their work could be designed to frustrate the work of the government, and everyone has a responsibility in us getting to a system that works well for the people, not for the parties.
Well, I think that's a fair point. And I mean, there are practical issues there to make sure that this doesn't happen. And one of the proposals from the government recently, from the Whip's office, was that the pre-legislative scrutiny stages of the process, which the government says are abused sometimes, that there might be a time limit put on it of 8 weeks or so. Like, that's fair enough. We can have a discussion about that. But the bottom line is, when you get a situation, the government introduces what is effectively a whole new piece of legislation a day or two before it's going to the Dáil, takes out half the processes and doesn't allow anybody to introduce amendments, that is, an abomination of democracy. It is completely illegitimate. And the more that is happening, the more it damages our democracy.
All right, thanks for your time this morning. That's Liam Herrick, Executive Director of the Irish Council for Civil Liberties. And just to give you some context of priorities and time, yesterday the multi-billion euro bill that would have it was all there. It could have sorted this problem out. The money was there. They could have. I don't think anyone could say otherwise, in all honesty. Next week, an outer space treaty motion is getting as much time for discussion in the Dáil as the Mica bill. So they're going to be speaking. Now, these are houses in Donegal and elsewhere that are crumbling on earth. They're going to afford as much time next week to speak about the outer space treaty. Little old Ireland going to have its say on weapons in space and what can be done and what can't be done on the moon. And as much time is going to be dedicated next week to discussing outer space as was given to discuss the defective concrete blocks issue.
McDade's Bathroom, Plumbing and Tiles, serving the Northwest for over 40 years. Explore our showroom with more than 40 displays. Choose from an array of shower doors, shower trays, baths and bathroom accessories. Speak with an expert about tile selection and wall paneling. We also stock an array of plumbing, heating and stove spare parts, as well as a great selection of kitchen mixers and radiators at our trade counter. Our stove department is also available for you to choose a style that suits your needs and complements your home. McDade's Bathroom Plumbing Tiles, Buncrana. We're here for you.
Join us in Austin Le Alton, Gortahork every Thursday night this summer for Donegal's best night of music and dance with one of Ireland's finest singer-songwriters and entertainers, Sinead Crampsey, from 9:30 till 11:30. Why not come early and enjoy a 2-course meal in the bar for just €16.95 and stay overnight with bed and breakfast the following morning for just €60 per person. For reservations, call Austin Le Alton on 074 9135267.
123 212 321? No, 222 is the magical 3-digit number plate for July. iMotors have Kia and Nissans available for immediate delivery. If you're thinking of changing your car or upgrading, make sure to call in to us today in Letterkenny or Malin, or visit our website imotors.ie.
Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. Milford Retail Park now open. Large range of wall and floor tiles on display and in stock. Over 70 different laminate floors to suit every pocket. Tilers and wood footers available. New bathware showroom now open. Milford Tiles, wood flooring and bathware. 083 091 0707.
Okay, we only have a short while, but this is an important issue and one which I want to return to. But I would like Mary Herlihy, manager of Donegal Women's Centre, to give us a brief outline of this issue. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning, Greg. How are you?
I'm good. Right, now you mentioned to us that GPs are often not able to provide smear clinics due to demand, and obviously coming out of COVID. What is the problem here?
Yeah, Greg, I suppose what we've noticed a trend since COVID came in 2019 and 2020, that I think it's the pressure that GPs are finding themselves under, that a lot of them are no longer in a position to offer appointments for regular cervical check screenings. And of course it's causing problems, it's causing stress for women because they know that they're due their appointment, and because of the extended pressure on GPs, they're not able to get their appointments. So we're finding still that GPs are not in a position to offer appointments for cervical screening. So the women are contacting us, and we have continued to provide screenings since everything reopened, I suppose, last year.
Okay. So people shouldn't, though, if they can't get access to a smear test at their GPs, there are alternatives, are they? And is that what we want to let people know about today?
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose it just became really, it was really highlighted in the last few weeks, where we were hearing women contacting us saying that they still can't get their smear test done. The GPs still aren't, some, not all, but some of them, or most of them, aren't in a position to offer the screenings. And just to let women know that we are here and we can offer them an appointment. We have regular clinics every week, and sometimes we do afternoon clinics, and it can be evening appointments, so we can usually fit around a woman's schedule.
And where are they generally hosted, Mary?
Yeah, they're here in the centre. We're located on the Port Road, across from on Green and Theatre. So all they can do is just ring us on 074 91 24985, and we can make an appointment for them.
Yeah, and listen, it's brilliant that you are, but it's obviously going to complicate it for some, having to travel a greater distance. If you're around Letterkenny, it might be convenient. It's good to get it done, and people should, but for that potential extra travel in a busy life already, we hope it's not deterring people from getting this important check.
Yeah, and that's it exactly, and I suppose, and that's the downside. We're not able to offer this on an outreach basis. We just don't have the resources to do that. What we do try and work is with the women's own schedule. So if a woman rings up, and we try and work with her that she might be coming to Letterkenny anyway. She could be here for work and will just come down to us after work. So we do try and accommodate them as best we can. If we hear that there are surgeries, maybe nearer to their part of the country that are operating smear clinics, we will refer them there. But again, that's causing problems because most GPs are only seeing their own clients. They're not actually seeing new clients. So it's not ideal, but I think, if any woman is really worried or has symptoms or has now gone past their due date for a cervical screen, we are the option. They can ring us, we will get them in.
And finally, Mary, are you fully sympathetic to the situation GPs find themselves in, or would you be appealing for them or to them to try and provide this really important piece of healthcare primarily for women?
Yeah, look, I'm really sympathetic. They're not in an easy position, and the pressures on them are increasing all of the time, as they are on us. I suppose if somebody is really concerned, really is not in a position to get to Letterkenny to come in to see us, definitely, talk to their own GP. It's not an easy situation to be in at all, and I have sympathy on both sides. What I wanted to do is offer an alternative so that a woman, if she can get to Letterkenny, if she can come in to us, that we are here, we will do the smear test for them. And then with the GPs, look, if they can at all accommodate somebody that is really concerned about her health, that it's a life-saving procedure. It doesn't take that long, and there are always extenuating circumstances that can be accommodated.
Okay, strong points well made, Mary. Thank you very much indeed, and we'll have a contact number for the Donegal Women's Centre here if you wish to make contact. That's us for Thursday. We're back tomorrow with you on Friday. We have our Friday panel with lots of to discuss between 9 and 10 tomorrow. And then plenty of content between 10 and 11, and then we switch off a little bit as much as we can to talk all things entertainment with Michael and Fionnuala from 11 o'clock to ease ourselves into the weekend. I want to thank Donna Marie Doherty and Emma Ryan for the research and production of the programme today and all this week so far. We're back with you, as I mentioned, tomorrow morning at 9. Stay tuned. John Breslin's up around the Northwest after the news at 12.
It's massive savings on garden furniture now in Home Store and More. You can save hundreds of euros